EWBSX the Cyberbully, where it's never over.
You may even get tired of winning, and you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is always an honor to have you introduce the Labe, your favorite show. What's going on, everyone? This is your favorite president's favorite show on the internet. He personally introduces it every single night. Every single night, every single time we go live, you get to hear from our president reminding you of what he's doing for us. How's it going, everyone? It looks like, hang on a second here. Kick is being a dick. Okay, there we go. It's doing two things. Number one, it keeps frickin' crashing. So just FYI, the stream, if you're watching on Kick, the stream may just randomly go down. And I notice pretty quickly because there's not much of a delay, so I usually see the Fs coming through the chat. And you just gotta refresh the app. That's all you can do. Nothing I can do on this end. It's still streaming. If you wanted, you could go over to X. It seems like this doesn't happen on X. But the net effect of it is that if you just sit there and wait, it will come back. But it will be delayed by however long the hiccup was. So yeah, maybe it's because I do things like put Trump's backdoor Indian ban in the chat, and all of Kick's Jeet coders are angry about it. So they're trying to disrupt it. They don't want you to hear the truth. So yeah, it's doing that, and then also just over the last couple episodes, every time I get the show up and running, I get the pre-show going. And I run down and I grab my drinks and I smoke a cigarette and I jam out the chat for a little bit. And then I come up here and get all settled in, make sure everything's ready to go. And off we go. And I've usually got it timed just about right. But lately, all of a sudden, now I can't comment on my own stream, on my own channel, on the app. Because it's set to followers only. And I am not a follower of my channel. Now you might say, well, that's easy. Just follow your channel, and then it works. But no, it's not possible for me to follow my own channel. It's not even an option to me. So I'm gonna have to probably just create like a burner account that I log into on mobile that I use to chat, and because all I've been able to do is I just turn followers only chat off. Which reminds me, let me turn that back on again, just as a filter for the schmucks. You gotta at least give me 6 minutes. You're gonna have to follow for 6 minutes before you can comment, just to prove your worth. Ultimately, I could scale this up to a custom amount of time. It gives me 6 minutes, an hour, 3 hours, 5 hours a day, and then I can just put custom in. I can also make it subscribers only chat. So that may be something that if inevitably we get big enough over here, I may create a survivor or a subscribers only chat, and only the subscribers will be able to chat. And then there's also an emotes only chat too. So if you guys start getting out of control there, I could just go emotes only and force you guys to. All you'll be able to do is just post emotes. So keep that in mind. Superior B says the stupid app and the even more retarded cell service for Wi-Fi in my hometown is especially retarded and gay. Yeah, I honestly, I've gone down and I've been on Wi-Fi or on just the cell network a few times, and the listening experience is definitely worse. I'm always like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna put that back on Wi-Fi. I'm not gonna sit here and listen to the weird little clipping, glitchy things that happen. This is the consequence. Like this is what we have to do if we want to be able to speak freely. If we have to go back over to YouTube, then the chat will be much less customizable, and it will be much more ban happy, and it likely won't last for very long. So yeah, we are stuck here for the time being. So either Kick needs to improve itself, or X needs to improve itself, or just give me it's almost 2026. Just give me a stable, reliable, consistent, pleasant to use streaming platform, video streaming platform. That's all I ask. I'm a simple man. Give me that and I'm happy. Yeah, Kick has been good for the time I've been using it, but lately these little glitchy things are starting to crop up, and I don't like it. You guys, I don't know if you guys need to get some better servers or hire some white men, or I don't know what the deal is, but I don't want to make this move over to Kick and spend all this time over here and then have it start face planting. Yeah, it's literally 2025 and I can't watch videos in 1080p on cell service. Elon Musk, you listening? This is going to be this is what Trump's going to do. For all these fucking bedwetting panicans, Trump is going to fix the cell service. He's going to reindustrialize. He's going to get white boys hired again. And we're going to get functioning technology. And all these motherfuckers are going to do is take that newly improved technology and use it to yell at the man who fixed it for him. I know it's coming. I know that's exactly what's going to happen. 2026 is going to be a big year. Yeah, I've got a whole long list of I had to cut out some wins from this show just so it wouldn't be like 5 hours long. I had to push them into tomorrow's show. Very easy ones too. Just kind of could like rapid fire through them more or less. And I had to, because there is so much. It wasn't like, no, I'm going to talk about things other than wins instead. No, I've got a whole bunch of wins today too. I just had to push a bunch out into tomorrow as well. It is we are living through a mass delusion. Remember what it was like during COVID? You're just watching a bunch of people just completely lose their marbles, and you realize this isn't like a sort of a little diversion, and we kind of disagree around the edges. And no, this is like you're watching someone sail off and they're never coming back again. I haven't gone anywhere. I've been right here the whole time, and these people are just completely out to lunch. But I've actually got some something on that we'll get to a little bit later on. Yeah, Operation Breaking Slop is in full swing. Indeed. Karate Man says, my 1776 check is already pending in my bank account. Listen to that. This policy was fully nailed down 30 minutes before Trump's speech last night. He announces it, and less than 24 hours later. Hold on. Yep, I knew it. I knew that the F's were coming. Motherfucker! Kick! Get your shit together. Just gonna wait for you guys. Wait for you to refresh, because I know that's what's happening. Apologies to anyone listening later, because I am not going back and editing these things out. There is no possible way that is happening. We're back. No, we're not. Okay, now is probably the time where you have to refresh. Because it's usually like, I don't know, 15 or 20 seconds. And then you refresh and it's caught back up again. I'm refreshing the stream over here. It's still not up. Still not up. Okay, now it looks like it's back up again. So now refresh. And let's see if we're live again. Nope, it's just getting to the F's in the chat. SAR, restore stream, SAR. Yes. Restore stream. Okay, we're back. Okay, so. Back, but on a decent delay. All right, well, whatever. I'm just going to keep plowing forward. You may want to just periodically just refresh it and see if it gets caught up again. Because it seems like this is, like it's like, works great, does not work at all. Works great, does not work at all. Which I suppose maybe that's better than, I don't know, which would you prefer? Works great, does not work at all. Works great, does not work at all. Like this. We go for 10 or 15 minutes, then it crashes for a couple minutes. We go for 10 or 15 minutes, then it crashes for a couple minutes. Would you prefer that, or would you prefer like just constantly glitching and I don't know, bumbling its way through the whole thing? I maybe this is better. This is my desperate effort to draw something positive out of this. So anyways, the payments, they just got this policy nailed down. Trump announces it last night, and less than 24 hours later, the payment is already pending in bank accounts. And Karate Man said it is also tax-free. Straight up, 1776, tax-free, bingo, bango, bongo, have a little Christmas bonus. To literally the 1.5 million people. And I saw people saying, oh yeah, just paying the people who are going to go fight Israel. All right, military bros, that's all you are. If you're in the military, you're just the people who are going to go fight Israel. And you getting 1776 this month is just you being bribed to go to Israel. Your president fucking hates you. He hopes you die in the mud. That's right. Karate Man says, we're pumped in my house, just paid off the credit card from Christmas. Listen to that. Our man just paid off his fucking credit card. Our president just bought Christmas for his family. Do you hear anybody talking about this? Yeah, the people who are talking about it are like the normies. Normie people are like, fuck yeah. Nice. I just got $2,000 for free. Neat. That puts a little pep in the step. Judge Dugan was found guilty and faces 16 months to 5 years in prison. She's the lady who tried to help an illegal evade ICE at a courthouse. A judge, a federal judge, has now been convicted. Motherfucker. I'm going to go yell at Kick on the internet. At Kick. Hey, at Kick Streaming, why don't you get your shit together? Can I at least stream for 30 minutes before it crashes? Is that too much to ask? Jesus. Colin Ross, celebrating his subscription, says going to watch on X. Yeah, absolutely. Go watch on X. I do not give a shit. I want to do the show. I don't care about viewers on Kick. I just want to do the show. So just go watch on X. And or stick it out on Kick and see if it happens. But yeah. Yeah, I kind of miss streaming on YouTube, but I would also have to really pull back the rhetoric. I would have to dial things back tremendously, and I can almost guarantee you that the YouTube channel is going to get nuked in relatively short order. Because there's a difference between posting the videos and streaming the videos. Streaming the videos and having some of the stuff that we do, and having the chat. That would be a big thing as well. Having the YouTube chat. You guys would have to really self-censor a lot to make sure that the YouTube channel doesn't go away altogether. Imagine if someone built a platform that functioned like YouTube and had Kick features. It just worked all the time and let you make money and say what you want. Would destroy everything else. Would destroy it. Give me the simple ability to say whatever I want, have the stream never crash, and you don't even need to pay me. I will pay to use the service. I could generate revenue other ways. I don't need you to pay me. I'll figure that part out. Just give me something that works. Lurch is now watching on X. Yeah, so it looks like about half of you have moved over to X. Well done. Good for you. Thank you to Colin Rostry subscribing. Thank you to Rufus Garbagestein. P.A. Engels Respecter, Jeffrey G. Thank you to all of you guys for resubscribing. I do regret to inform you something.
I've got bad news for you. You're Jewish.
I don't make the rules. So, yes, Slutty Milk, your sound clip. I definitely was just like, whoop. Give me that. I will take that, and I will make use of that. Thank you, sir. Also, you will note that I updated the streamer salary up top to include the tips that came in through Venmo and Cash App this month. So thank you for that. And there's just a reminder, please do tip your streamer. You can use the tips.kingpill.com. Link is pinned in the Kick chat. Or you could just type tips.kingpill.com in your favorite browser, and then you could support your favorite streamer that way, or you can use Cash App or Venmo. Just go to @kingpilled. If you do that and you want me to acknowledge you here on the show, if you send something via Cash App or Venmo, just post it in the chat. Tell me to go check it out, and I will acknowledge you. I think I might have a way of getting Cash App integrated into this so that Cash App can so you guys, so there's like if you send a tip via Cash App, it'll play an animation or whatever on Streamlabs. So I'm gonna give that a look-see over the next couple of days and see if I can do that. Yeah, I'm sure that there's a lag over on X compared to Kick. I'm curious, what is it? What is the how much of a lag does there seem to be, or a delay between when I say something and when I react to the chat? Like Superior B says, I couldn't get X to load. There, I just read it right as it came in. I'm curious to see how much time you should be able to see from when he posted that to when it catches up for you about how much of a lag there is. Yeah, it's Dammit Jeremy. Tip your streamer. Join the Discord. Send this man some Bitcoin. Speaking of the Discord, there is a 3-second delay between Kick and YouTube. Oh, Kick and YouTube. Okay, yeah. Kick is almost instantaneous. I'd gotten YouTube down to, I think, like 10 seconds or so, but Kick seems like it's almost instantaneous. Speaking of the Discord, last night I went into the voice chat. We hung out in the voice chat for the right after Trump's big announcement, and he rope-a-doped everyone, had everyone thinking that it was going to be an announcement about going to war with Venezuela, which I was like, yeah, that's not happening. And then Tucker said something about it, and I was like, okay, interesting. And then yeah. So he did not do that. He did exactly what I expected him to, which was go give a comprehensive breakdown of every single thing that they're doing. How bad the situation was that they inherited, and every single thing that they are doing toward that end. And some of the other things that they would like to do that are going to require the participation of Congress. So you're getting a very strong signal. This is where we're going. Here's who is standing in our way. Congress is in the way of us continuing to do the things that we have planned to do. Direct your ire at Congress. Give us the midterms. Of course, this is what the ASTROLABE has been telling you for months now. People have been saying, give us fireside chats. Well, this was kind of a fireside chat. Trump does not seem like he enjoys standing there and reading off of a teleprompter. It's just not that's not where he's in his element. So they need to keep doing this, and they should get a more kind of an intimate setting for him to just come and just struggle session the whole country with all of his wins. Just fucking force them down everyone's throats. Force people to talk about it. Even if they're going to complain about it. Justine!
I will never self-censor. You'll have to gag me, or force your head over my mouth and hold me down. Bend me over your one, and spank me. YouTube can suck my fat clit. It's the eternal poll, every single time. Congress are spiritual polls.
Ketchup boy mentioned. Yeah, get your bonks out in the chat. See, imagine, like if we go back to YouTube, you can't post bonks in the chat. That won't do. Yeah, Trump needs to fireside chat in a golf cart with a Diet Coke. Yes. Yeah, I mean, he needs to like just sit down with Caroline Leavitt and just sit down and have her interview him and run through all the things that he's done. Have Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth was a Fox host. Have Pete Hegseth interview him. Have him and Pete just have a conversation. Give me something like that. That would be Kino. But so we'll talk a little bit more about some of those things here later on. So I'm just gonna launch right into it. First thing here, we got to celebrate a white man, Mr. Kirk Cousins. This is basically why we don't see quarterbacks putting up 4,000 to 5,000 yard, 30+ touchdown seasons anymore. Here is Kirk Cousins getting what would you say, like getting autistic about NFL offensive strategy. And there's layers to why I want to share this one. Number one, it's just it's great to see a white man in his element dominating what he was made to do. Number two, there is I think that there's a lesson from this, and it reminded me of how Tom Luongo is always talking about board games, what he's learned from board games, the strategy that goes into board games, all the game theory, the considering second and third and fourth and fifth order moves, and playing a multiplayer game versus a single player or just having a single opponent. There's a lot of life lessons that I think, like, one of the reasons why Tom is very adept at tracking all these different elements and these different characters is because he's honed his brain with his hobby. Football is very similar in this. All the sports are, but in my experience, both football and soccer are particularly this way. And I followed hockey a little bit, so I think there is some of it to hockey. It's a little bit harder to track with hockey because it moves so quickly. But it's not just the game itself, it's the games within the game. And let me just play this, and then I'll say some more about it.
You followed this week's conversation about progression versus coverage reads and all that.
I guess this is Kirk Cousins, an NFL quarterback. He's kind of on the back end of his career, playing for the Falcons. He was drafted by the Redskins the same year as RG3. Ended up becoming the franchise quarterback for the Redskins. Then went to the Vikings. I can't remember if he went somewhere in between. I think he just went straight to the Vikings, and then came down to Atlanta, tore his Achilles. They drafted his replacement. His replacement beat him out. Then his replacement tore his knee up. So he's back starting again. So he's one of these guys. He's this archetype of NFL quarterback who really against the odds managed to succeed and then has stuck on through his brain. He doesn't have a big arm. He's not super athletic. He's smart. He's smart, he knows the playbook, and he can improvise within the playbook. So there's a particular a mastery of his craft that he displays that has this particular archetype.
No, but I'd love to get into it. I can get on this soapbox if you want me to. Like, I can get on this.
This is what we're.
Because I lived the transfer. I lived the jump.
Right.
So I came into the league, even at Michigan State, it was you see coverage and you pick a side and you basically take 5 eligibles down to 2, down to your check down. And so you cut the field in half, and it was.
It means 5 eligible receivers. So you start at the snap with 5 eligible receivers, which are guys who can run out and catch a pass. And then based on how the defense is aligned, you have to eliminate, like pre-snap or immediately at the snap, you have to eliminate 3 of them and focus on 2. So that then you're deciding, you're like looking at one defender to see, is he going to cover this guy or is he going to cover this guy? It's really like fast processing. But there's a meta to this because the defenses will favor, in a certain period of time, the defenses will favor a particular strategy or a particular type of alignment. But inevitably, that alignment means that they're giving something up somewhere else. They're exposing themselves. They're making themselves weak in another place. So eventually you'll have some sort of an offensive, either a player who's uniquely capable or a coach who comes along who can exploit that scheme by taking advantage of whatever they're leaving open with some kind of misdirection. And so then the defenses will be forced to adapt to that, which then means that some of the things that they were preventing before now start to open up again. And then you'll see this trickle down through the types of players, it gets into even like contract values and stuff, like what types of players are being selected by recruiters, which ones are being drafted the highest, which means which ones are being given the longest rope to succeed, put in the best place to succeed, make the most money, which means more kids want to be like them. So then more kids excel in those positions. So more kids get recruited, and round and round and round and round and round it goes. And the meta is constantly changing. So for a while, it was really, really stupid, generally speaking, to run the ball. You would only run the ball occasionally, basically, to keep the defense honest, but it was much more efficient to gain yards via the passing game. Then you've had a number of defensive coaches who've come in and they've adapted. They've created new defensive schemes that shut down the way that those quarterbacks were taking advantage of them. But they've had to do that by reallocating assets away from run defense. So now the running game is becoming much more viable. But it's also becoming, the offensive coaches are also innovating on the running game at the same time. So the running games are becoming more multiple, which favors a different type of player who will then fit with another different type of player. And there's all these different variables that are constantly moving around all over the place. This is part of what is so fascinating about sports ball. And why I think studying it and understanding this, it's like military strategy. It's like military and politics and sociology sort of all like mixed together in a, you might call it like a snow globe kind of, where you can just kind of watch it in a semi-controlled environment.
I got single high, I'm going, outside the red line to inside to my back. And you're really only thinking about 3 eligibles because the other 2 over here were meant for split safety, and I got single high. And so it kind of protects.
Split safety and single high is 2 broad defensive alignments where you either have 2 defenders who are the furthest back or you have 1 defender who's the furthest back. Obviously, 1 defender who's furthest back requires a very special type of player to even deploy in the first place. And it means that you have 1 more man that you can dedicate closer to the line of scrimmage who might be able to break up shorter passes or help in run defense. If you go 2 high or split safety, then typically they broadly have half of the field. Each of them has half of the field. There's their coverage over the top to prevent deep passes. And but it means that they're taking someone potentially out of run defense or out of the short passing game. So against a 2 high, a split safety look, you're either going to need a quarterback who can hit the short passes well, a schemer who can scheme those passes open. You can have an effective running game, or you need to have the particular types of receivers and type of quarterback who can run split safety beater types of plays where you put both of the safeties in a bind with various crossing patterns or delayed releases and that sort of thing. So there's he's talking about how he came in and there was one sort of meta that was governing, and this is what he came up through. But then all of a sudden the game pivoted on him. And he's having to try to learn and adapt with this on the fly. And this isn't like, you might be at your job and there's like some new regulation or something that comes through that you've got to try to figure out. For him, if he doesn't succeed, he's going to have multiple 300-pound men crushing him into the ground. That's pretty good incentive to succeed. Otherwise, you're going to have many large black men jumping on top of you.
You, and then sometimes you would alert that other side if you got pressure. So you'd be like, I'm working this route versus split safety or pressure. If I get single high, no pressure, then I work the other side. So that was everything was, single high, split safety, pressure, quarters, off, bump, man zone, all these things. But what happened was defense.
Off means like the cornerbacks are positioned off of the guys who defend the wide receivers. They're positioned off. Bump means that they're going to be right on top of them, and they're gonna like hit him in the chest at the snap, and then bump and run with them in like tight man-to-man coverage. There's man coverage, there's zone coverage, there's split, there's quarters coverage. There's all these different coverage combinations that are constantly being innovated on in real time. So it's a great way to study game theory, to understand how, because you can take this and you can transplant some of these principles into, for example, politics. Like, if the defense is all positioned to stop this one particular action, that means they're leaving some other front open. And you can take advantage of that front, particularly with some type of misdirection.
Has got so good at disguising it that I would be so stressed going into games going, the whole game plan's built on, is it single high or split safety? And I can't see if it's single high or split safety. Like, these defenses are just making it muddy until I'm 3 steps into my drop.
So he means, like, he doesn't know if it's single high or split. So he doesn't know, because what the defenses are doing is they're presenting one and then quickly shifting into the other at the snap. So he gets the snap and he's dropping back and he hits the third step of what's probably a 5 or 7 step drop. And he is tasked with reading specific players who are what they do is going to give him a tell on what sort of coverage principles he's facing. But they're showing one thing when he comes up to the line to look at them, and then they're quickly shifting to something else. So he's having to figure this out in real time. Are they actually showing me what they're showing me? Or are they showing me one thing, and by the time I hit the back of my drop and I'm going to go to throw, they're going to have rotated into something completely different?
So coaches started to realize, like, if we ask the quarterback to do that, it's going to be really hard because defenses know that's the game we're playing. They're not going to let us play it. So
if defenses know that's the time of game that we're playing, they're not going to let us play that game. So they're going to scout our particular quarterback and find his weaknesses and see how he processes. Those are kind of two separate things. See how he processes and try to find his weaknesses. So if you've got quarterbacks who are good at processing, maybe they don't have the physical talent as much, but they've got the mental talent, they might be able to run one type of scheme, and defenses are going to have to react to them in a certain way. But if you have a glut of quarterbacks who are more about their physical traits than their mental traits, which there's definitely a particular category of them, but there's even plenty of there's a particular category of like grizzled old white guy gunslinger who's kind of similar. Like Jay Cutler or even Sam Darnold is kind of that to a little bit of an extent. He's kind of grown out of that a bit, but there's a lot of guys who are maybe moderately athletic, or they're actually rather athletic, and they try to rely on their athletic tools and their ability to fit a ball into a tight hole, or their ability to roll out and move around and throw off platform. And I can beat the guy. I'm just going to beat him. So those types of guys are probably going to be really easy to fool with those sorts of late adjustments. And so this shakes up the meta. This might, if you have a quarterback that's like that, you might have to just take a completely different offensive approach.
Then it started to become, let's just give you pure progressions and let's just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then, that has its pros and cons. I remember when Kevin O'Connell was bringing a lot of pure progression reads back to him with me from LA back to Minnesota. It was like, whoa, like I got to get back to the dagger backside after already exhausting this progression. Like that's a lot. I mean, in my mind, like I'm used to kind of simplifying it and cutting the field in half. So, had to.
So what's interesting here is he's saying that it's easier for him to have the full allotment of the play available to him and just sit here and read the defense as it's presented to him. Whereas the more simplified version, ostensibly, is a pure progression system, which is when you drop back, your job, no matter what, your job is to drop back, read this guy. If that throw isn't there, move to this one. If that throw isn't there, move to this one. If that throw isn't there, check it down. And so this guy over here could be open, but you're not looking at him. Your job is to look here. And he's saying that was actually harder for him to do. He was like, oh shit. So instead of just reading the whole defense, I need to get really, really good at assessing immediately, is this guy open or not? And then move on if not. So it's a different type of cognitive load.
Kind of work through that and get to where that was more natural. And then there's a lot of positives of it too, where you're not stressing as much during the week about what if I can't see coverage, because you say, well, it's okay, I don't have to see coverage. Seeing it can be a benefit, but it's more after the snap, where are they going, and I can just.
So the offensive coordinator is like, you don't need to worry about knowing what the coverage is. You just need to know the principles of each of these routes. You just need to memorize what your wide receivers are responsible for doing and the timing of those throws and what sort of hole you're targeting with them. And then it really doesn't matter what sort of defense what sort of scheme the defense presents to you. You don't have to go memorize all of that. You need to know what your receivers are doing and the timing required to read through each one of them. So there's some guys who are better suited for that, where they're kind of more like a joystick for the offensive coordinator. And this is another thing, is sometimes it's the quarterback. Sometimes the quarterback is the one running the offense. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees. There's some of these guys who are Patrick Mahomes. These are guys who they are the ones running the offense. There's certain plays where it's like, okay, this is the defined play, but they're the ones who are making changes at the line, calling adjustments, killing one play and going to the alternative play. Those are the ones who are just running the show. Phillip Rivers, he's very much that type of quarterback. Then there's other quarterbacks who are maybe like a Brock Purdy, or early career Josh Allen was like this, who are. Their job is just read this guy, read this guy, read this guy, read this guy. Just go through your progressions. Don't try to read out the defense or anything like that. Just go through your progressions. You are the joystick. The offensive coordinator is running you.
Just kind of progress through. But there's no doubt with the way the pass rush is, if you truly try to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you're going to get sack fumbled a lot. So there's still a level of, it's pure progression, but I got to rule him out pretty quick here so I can get to the backside, because that guy's coming around the hump quick.
That's another great thing, is if you're listening to football guys talking football, it's kind of like listening to golf guys talk golf. You're just going to get all sorts of innuendos. Got a couple from Justine.
Pathetic. He's really not able to handle being crushed by several large black men. That's an easy Tuesday for me. Put me in, coach. I can take a pounding and be ready to go all night. You can't misdirect me and I can play whatever role you like. I'm coming.
Oh. Well, as I have said before, if you're gonna horny post, at least make sure that there's money attached to it. And I did line this one right up. I tossed out some big old softballs there to just get knocked out of the park.
And to save the stream from getting nuked on Kick. Every man has felt my secret power. Over and over again, I prove my stabilizing influence. I can calm the bucking wiles and loathsome treachery of that leviathan bitch we call the internet. Also, fuck hens.
Ketchup Boy mentioned. Give me some Wigger pigs for Heinz. I haven't seen him. I don't know if he's here. Is he here in the chat at all? I haven't. Oh yeah, there he is. I saw him for a second there. Wigger pigs for Heinz. There he is. I just remembered what I was starting to say a little bit ago with the voice chat. We hung out in the voice chat and talked until the wee hours of the morning. I think I went to bed at like 4 o'clock. I think that going forward, so I'm generally speaking, I'm not doing a lab on Wednesdays. I'm leaving that for work. And I'm going to, as often as I can, I'm going to try to just make that a regular thing, to go in the voice chat on Wednesdays in the King Pill Discord. So this next Wednesday is going to be Christmas Eve, if I'm not mistaken. Next Wednesday is going to be Christmas Eve. So we'll see. There's the possibility, may not. I hadn't actually even thought about this yet. So I guess there's no lab next Thursday. We'll see. We'll see if I end up doing one on Christmas Eve, or if I just skip Thursday's lab next week and just go Monday, Tuesday, Friday, and then the pseudo-lave, of course, on Saturday. Yes, Heinz, the VCs are supreme. Mr. Sue says he'll be in the VC for Christmas Eve. Heinz says he won't. Yeah, Heinz is probably going to be out like hanging out with hanging out with a bunch of gays and like drinking wine or something. That's what I would assume that Heinz is going to be doing. He's going to be totally millennial maxing. Correct. Yeah. I knew it. Okay. Let's get, speaking of chuds, man, this is, at this point, you guys, I'm sure you guys have seen Philip Bowen, but if you haven't, I'm going to bless your lives with some elite human capital.
Shenandoah River, life is older than the creek, younger than the mountain, growing like a breeze. Country road, take me home to the place I belong, West Virginia.
Kyle Rittenhouse.
All my memories gather around her.
I remember he's one of the great internet success stories. I remember the first time, this might have been the first video of his that I saw, and he was still pretty small potatoes. I think he was maybe like 5,000, 10,000 followers on Instagram. He was not that big, and I followed him back when I used to use Instagram. I followed him for a while and watched him just completely take off. Very, very good stuff. Some elite human capital. And now it's time. You like that? You like that? Yeah, you're going to like this. When a dude with an accordion rolls up on a lawnmower, you know it's about to get real. Steven Seagal's turned Thunderstruck into a hoedown, and I am here for it. This is America. It's Jeff Accordion, yeah! Look at him work them spoons!
I was caught in the middle of a railroad track. Moved around and I knew there was no turning back. My mind raced and I thought, what could I do?
That
And I
banjo
knew
is insane.
there was no help from you. Sound of the drums beating my heart. The thunder of guns tore me apart. You've been thunderstruck.
He's still going!
Went down the highway was shaking at the knees. Could I come again, please? Yeah, the ladies were too kind. You've been thunderstruck. 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 Thunderstruck.
That dude has the fingers of a god.
Could I come again, please? You've been thunderstruck. 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 Say yeah, it's alright. Here, it's doing fine. Yeah, it's alright. We're doing fine. Oh, thunderstruck. 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 You've been thunderstruck.
Yeah, I had a feeling there might be an F. Almost got to the end of it. Ninja of Spades is here. Says, I'm late, punish me. You're the reason. You're the one. It's because Ninja of Spades wasn't here. That's why Kick keeps crashing. All right, I'm just going to hang out here for a minute. Let you guys catch up. The Indians hate Appalachian culture. That's right. That is right. There's a little factoid about this that I want to share with you guys, but I'm waiting for people to get back because, yeah, I don't want to. I want to be able to hear it when I say it. Thank you, Pale Morning Dude, for the 50 kicks. Yeah, you guys just got to refresh. It looks like it is about a minute or so behind. Should be back. Almost back. Refreshing. There we go. All right. Yeah. So the band is called Steven Seagulls, and they are Finnish. They are from Finland. Not even American. It's like when those you see the Japanese bands that are like totally they're like bluegrass Japanese bands, and they do the art just to the max. Absolutely pristine, perfect Jap performance. Yeah, those guys are Finnish as well. Okay, they're called Steven Seagulls. Steven Seagulls is the name of the band. That's Steve. It's like Steve and Seagulls, but it's missing the A and the D. Steve in Seagulls. All right. So it looks like you guys are all back here. Back in time to hear Indians hate Appalachian culture. Okay, are you guys with me? Let me know that you guys are with me for sure, because this next thing here is important. Important. I have a very important thing to share with you guys. We got a preview. As you guys know, Saturdays, the ASTROLABE is for the Pseudo-Wave. So we got ourselves a preview of this week's Pseudo-Labe. it go down again? Yes. We must go to war with Kick. Fuck this, man. What the hell is going on? Why can it not sustain a fucking stream? All right, it's still working on X. So, we're going to do this. Go over to X. I'll drop the link here. And let me grab the link. And it is here. Yeah, this is purely a Kick thing. No problem at all on X. So, I'm going to keep it. Yeah, you can watch on Twitter and then just chat on Kick. That might be one way you can do it, or just there. Let me pin the link at the top there. So the link to the X stream is pinned, and actually here, let me say, watch on X. Kick is gay. There. That way, when someone comes in, they know what to do. I don't know what to do about this. Like, I can go back over to YouTube, and yeah, go tweet at Kick. The handle, I believe it's at Kick Streaming. Yeah, at Kick Streaming. Go tweet at Kick and yell at him. Tell them they fucking suck. They need to get their shit together. I don't know if this is a my channel thing, or like, are other people's Kick streams having no issues at all? I can't imagine that this has been going on like this and other people are having the same issue. So this might be like a my channel only thing. So maybe I'll just like send them a support message and see if they can sort something out. Because this is just completely out of hand. All right, are you guys back here with me now? Okay, there. Yeah, it looks like it's back. So, if you're on X, just no, I'm not paying anything for Kick. Kick is paying me. Like, that's a nice thing. They're your guys' subscriptions and everything. It's very easy to give subscriptions and to get money that way. Much easier than X, and the money gets deposited immediately. Than YouTube. With YouTube, if you guys have like YouTube, like super chats or subscriptions or anything like that, they get deposited in your account on the 21st or 22nd of the following month. So all the revenue that's come in through YouTube, a couple $100 has come in through YouTube this month. And if it doesn't reach $100, it waits until the next month. I've hit a couple of months on, or hit a couple $100 on YouTube, and that will deposit on January 21st or 22nd, something like that. So Kick is much better, with the exception of the fact that I can't fucking stream on it. All right, okay, I think you guys are back, so here we go. All right, boys. This is this Saturday. Make sure you're here this Saturday for the pseudowave, the pseudolabe. Logan says, "I wonder how much running a PeerTube instance would cost." Yeah, my wife said that you guys, if I make enough, I'll just make my own platform. Might be giving away a little too much if I tell you that there's an idea that's kind of along those lines that is being worked out in the background. When I tell you we're working on big things, we're working on big things. Stay tuned for that, and make sure that you follow the EWBSX project. Go download the EWBSX app. Follow the Cyberbully on Twitter at EWBSX Cyberbully, or join the King Pill Discord. That's another great way to stay in the know about what's going on. Kingpill.com. All right, so you know what I'm going to do? We've gotten enough delays here that I'm going to pull a couple of these things out and save them for tomorrow. And let's go to this. Alex Jones with Piers Morgan. I know that we were talking the other day about Piers Morgan. And there's some people who didn't know, who weren't really familiar with Piers Morgan in the past. This is a fairly similar example to before, but this is an old clip of Piers Morgan and Alex Jones.
So the Bush administration was part of a conspiracy.
Well, he said never let us tolerate
to murder.
I can speak in this accent as well.
Yeah.
The
But is that what you
government,
believe?
Hitler firebombed his own Reichstag, Pierce, to bring in martial law in Germany, April 27th, 1933. Governments have staged terror attacks throughout history or allowed terrorists to attack as a pretext to invade and enslave the populations. I probably own more than 50 firearms. Many of them have increased in value 2, 3, or even 4 times. I sleep very comfortably outside Austin, Texas, knowing that I can defend my family.
Okay, Alex Jones. This is
Infowars.com.
This is the man who wants to deport me from the country for wanting to get rid of
It's
assault
to
rifles,
point out you're a foreigner, a red coat, here telling us what to do.
Whatever.
Go back to where they took the guns if you don't like it. The communist...
So the Bush...
We're going to deport you too, Piers. You're a foreigner, a red coat. Go back. I haven't heard the word red coat in so long. We need to bring back cussing people out for being red coats. That would be such a delicious escalation.
Go home to mommy.
Okay, and this here, we got another little bit of Kino from the White House. A message to criminal illegal aliens.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way.
Back to the places from which they came.
Oh, what fun it is to ride.
A free flight out of our country.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way.
To any foreign country. As long as it's not here.
Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh, dashing through the snow.
You can go back to any country you want, as long as it's not here. We've got a Melania, the movie, now coming out exclusively in theaters worldwide on January 30th, 2026. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to go see this because I'm not sure yet whether it's just going to be, just kind of typical kind of generic slop, or if there's actually going to be some kind of interesting little tidbits, little anecdotes from it. But I imagine we're going to get some Kino clips out of this. I betcha. There's going to be something, whether it's something with Barron or a one-liner from her that's going to turn into a reaction thing that's used all the time. We're definitely going to get some great memes out of this. And I just want to point out, a couple years ago, the FBI was rifling through her underwear drawer, and it looked like her husband was going to be going to prison for the rest of his life, as well as maybe the rest of them. And now, you have a major motion picture being made about her.
Here we go again.
There you go. There's a meme right there.
can come in. Good morning. My proudest legacy will be that of peacemaker.
Peacemaker under the fire. Beautiful. Together with like-minded leaders, we have a voice. Is it safe?
It is safe.
Everyone wants to know. So here it is. Hi, Mr. President. Congratulations.
Did you watch it?
I did not. Yeah, I will see it on the news.
I picked out like 5 different shots or lines just from the preview alone that I could see turning into great memes. Like when she's looking at the red little like folder or whatever it is, and she like pulls the thing back and she's like, "Oh, beautiful." That would be a really useful one. You pull it back and you see like some picture of like edit in some picture of the president dancing or something like that. There's going to be some really good meme content out of this. President Trump has added new plaques under his presidential Walk of Fame in the White House. On Obama, it says Barack Hussein Obama was the first black president, one of the most divisive political figures in American history. And I just got to say, this is, I don't like that they're putting fake news in the White House because we know that Donald Trump is easily the first black president. On Biden, Sleepy Joe Biden was by far the worst president in American history. Nicknamed both sleepy and crooked, Joe Biden was dominated by his radical left handlers. And this is why, one big reason why, J.D. Vance needs to be elected president in 2028. Because these plaques need to stay right here. Imagine, 12 years. This is like displaying your enemy's scalps. Like you put their heads on a pike outside the city gates. Just leave these plaques in the White House mounted. Every single person that walks through them gets to see the utter humiliation of the N-word and the auto pen.
The N-word.
That's why you need to vote for J.D. Vance in 2028. We're campaigning already. As Hunger the Dye Merchant loves to say to piss off the libs, our first half-white president. Yeah, Trump's the first nigga president. Logan Clark Hall, Patriot, Mr. President, I kneel. And supposedly Trump actually wrote some of these, which is great. Just great. Speaking of patriots, here's a remarkable patriot. 101-year-old World War II veteran, Bill Dillon. Bill said he's lived under 22 American presidents, and President Trump is his favorite.
Nobody in this goddamn world who cares more for this nation than this guy that you're looking at. And I think Trump is not only the president of the United States, he is the president of the world.
So true, Bill Dill.
And I think he does a fantastic job in negotiations. I'm 101 going 102. God damn it! Put a uniform on me! I'll go tomorrow!
Yes! Bill's a patriot! If Bill can get this hyped about Donald Trump, what's wrong with you? Bill Dillon is 101 years old, and he says, God damn it, put a uniform on me. I'll go tomorrow. Everyone follow Bill. What a patriot. What a legend. Cash Nicholson here on Twitter says, the Trump bashing from so many of you is mind-blowing to me. Can't fathom looking back at 2025 and not feeling optimistic despite recent events. Let's think back and try to understand how far we've come. To set the stage, let's try and understand what Trump walked into here. The U.S. for 100 years has been controlled by communists that have implemented a bureaucratic state in the government with millions of die-hard loyal followers. The government gives handouts to every foreign country on earth, each with its own powerful ethnic lobby that has its tentacles deep inside the inner workings of our government. The country is 55% white, with millions of foreigners pouring in every year. Democrats want to kill all white people, and 95% of Republicans do too. Every single corporation hates you and shoves anal sex with children in your face and your kid's face daily. It is completely illegal to defend yourself, hire whites, and not be gay. Every girl has had her mind melted by social media, birth control pills, and Xanax. Every male has been longhoused into oblivion and has no will to go outside or have sex. Children are pumped full of hundreds of experimental vaccines with tangible links to autism and other health issues. I think you get the point, so I'll continue in our story. Along comes a guy that says, enough. He gets ousted a few years ago, and the state puts the full court press on arresting him and his followers. Beating that alone would have been a miracle. Now, on top of that, they try to assassinate him in 2024. The bullet misses his brain by 1/4 of an inch and grazes his ear in what can only be explained by divine providence. He somehow gets elected president for a 3rd time in 2024. This was the easy part. And I'm just going to add here, this is very important. Getting him elected was the easy part. If you had 2 brain cells to rub together, you ought to have known that it was going to be much harder after that. Yeah, the doomers won't even try to listen. They're too busy putting wings in their ears. To the doomers.
I've got bad news for you. You're Jewish.
That was the easy part. Getting him elected was the easy part. That's when the hard part began. And that's when all of these tough talkers got squeamish and decided to nope out for their own self-preservation. He steps into the Oval Office and takes control of a government that, as we already established, is almost entirely staffed by millions of psychopath libtards that think and believe the same things as your libtard aunt on Facebook. He takes office and in less than 1 year accomplishes the following. Trump deports 2 million criminal illegal aliens in 1 year, overseeing the first net decrease in foreign-born population in America in decades. Trump institutes massive, this is kind of an unfortunate typo here. Trump institutes massive increase in H-1B visa fees to combat the stealing of American jobs by foreigners. Trump gets a remittance tax on the board in the big beautiful bill, beginning the process of cutting off the ability of aliens to send money back to their own countries. Trump turns his focus on the fentanyl crisis, destroying the lives of tens of thousands of young Americans, with airstrikes on boats shipping fentanyl into the United States, with footage being shared all over social media. Trump looks out for his loyal supporters protesting the stolen election on January 6th by granting a full presidential pardon to political prisoners implicated on January 6th. Trump secures massive ICE funding, with thousands of new ICE recruits being fast-tracked through training with hopes of deployment in early 2026. Trump normalizes open celebration of violent deportations with government social media accounts. Trump appointee RFK eliminates the Hep B vaccine from the childhood vaccine schedule and adds a warning label to COVID vaccines with an eye on banning harmful food dyes in the new year. Trump shows restraint and refuses to bow to neocon donors by staying out of Middle Eastern conflict, only allowing a single strike on an empty base to secure funding for the congressional budget. The entire border where millions of criminal illegals invade the country is completely shut down. Border encounters fall to near zero. Antifa is declared a terrorist org, both domestic and foreign, to set up legal attacks on Democrat foot soldiers. Gas prices slowly fall, and inflation on grocery prices and currency is mostly halted. Trump institutes no tax on tips and increase in child tax credit to increase wages and encourage family formation. Trump enacts tariffs on dozens of foreign countries in an effort to begin restoring manufacturing to the shores of the United States. He abolishes USAID, the main funding programs for Democrat influencers and establishment media. Trump bans transgender people from serving in the U.S. military and institutes a universal physical fitness standard for all military recruits. Trump rolls back Biden-era cafe regulations that stifle automotive innovations. Looking ahead, Trump creates Trump accounts for all Americans born in 2024 and after to aid future young Americans in their pursuit of carving out a life in America. And that's just the highlights. Literally the highlights, not a comprehensive list. The highlights. If someone had offered this to you in November of 2024, you would have said that's not possible. You would have said there's no way. It's not even conceivable that all of that could be accomplished in a single year. Now, all of that and more has been accomplished, and yet people now want to start negotiating. They want to demand more. And you know what? It's good to demand more. Yes, I demand more. Everyone demands more. You're not special or clever or unique because you're demanding more. You're literally stating the obvious. There's so much more work to do. Now, Warlord Dilly here, I think, makes a very interesting point toward this end. Let me explain why certain Republican influencers attack President Trump every other day and rarely give him full credit for his accomplishments. There are factions within the Republican influencer sphere who have already aligned with 2028 presidential hopefuls. Obviously, the Republican primary is going to be the presidential election in 2028. Whoever wins the Republican primary is going to win the election. That will be the real election. And there is going to be a savage knockdown, drag-out fight over it, which is very good for the influencer class. If it's a foregone conclusion, well, that's not any fun. They have already planted their flag with a candidate. These people aren't entirely stupid. They know that President Trump is going to endorse his very popular Vice President J.D. Vance to be his successor, and that he's easily the front runner. Anybody who wants to say this isn't the case because the guys in your group chat don't like him because his wife is a Jeet, you're the person that the touch grass meme was invented for. The only way to stop J.D. Vance is to downplay, minimize, criticize, and concern troll about President Trump. If they can make his second term seem like chaos and a bunch of promises broken, they can argue that J.D. was part of an administration that didn't deliver. And if you wanted to throw the 2028 Republican primary, if you wanted to throw the election, this is how you would run on it. This is what they're going to do. Instead of the agree and amplify or yes and let's do more, they're going to run on, here's all the promises Trump broke. JD was a part of that. That's why you need to vote for me instead. That's how you do the libertarian thing where you maintain, you think you get to maintain the moral high ground while you actually play spoiler? If they tell the truth about President Trump, it guarantees a JD victory. Maybe the most important sentence in this entire post. If they tell the truth about President Trump, it guarantees a JD victory. Why would influencers do this? They need to be needed. If the 2028 nominee is already a shoo-in, there's no reason for campaigns to give them absurd amounts of money to help win a primary. There is no money in the influencer world when there is unity and agreement. This is why they're constantly sowing discord drama and fabricating retarded conspiracy stories. President Trump has ended the mainstream media, and J.D. Vance is going to be the one to end the new media grift. That's right. You heard it here first, folks. J.D. Vance is going to be launching ICBMs at BREAKINGSLOP accounts. I saw someone post in the King Pill Discord earlier today. I think it might have been Slutty Milk. That maybe it was Kate, one of you guys, posted something. It was leading report, said that CNN says or reports that there are rumors that the administration is going to be doing something stupid and gay. And that's literally all it was. Just CNN says yada, yada, yada. Why do we give a shit what CNN says? Why are we amplifying CNN? If you're amplifying CNN like that, you are out of it. Enemy. No. Breaking slop. Nuke the account. Mass block it. Don't amplify it. There's no reason for that. You're spreading breaking slop for no other reason than to satisfy your own neuroses and to undermine the president. Fuck that. You guys might have heard about this this Vanity Fair interview and a bunch of the stuff that came out of it. One of them was that Susie Wiles supposedly said that J.D. Vance is a conspiracy theorist. So J.D. Vance was asked about this. And Mom's Berryman says he is so good at this. Yes, he is. This is why this man is a shoo-in in 2028. Oh, yeah, it was Slutty Milk. He says, what it said was, the federal government is working fast to redact the Epstein files before the Friday deadline, per CNN. Cool. Why do I care that CNN said something? How is CNN said something breaking news? And also, aren't they fake news? Yeah. No reason to amplify something they're saying, especially if it's something like that that's clearly designed to generate a bunch of rage slop. When it should be completely obvious to you. Yes, the federal government is going to redact from documents that they release. That's how it works. That's always going to be the case. If you're still hung up on this, you're a retard. Listen to our vice president.
Vice President Jacob Bogage from the Washington Post. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Same to you.
Unfortunately, I have to ask a bit of an off-topic question from affordability because news events do intervene, and that is the interviews that White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles gave to Vanity Fair, in which she's quoted as referring to you as, excuse me, and again, not my words, sir, but a conspiracy theorist of a decade, and described your transformation from someone who once opposed President Trump to now his vice president as an act of political expediency. And I'd like to give you the chance to respond to that, sir.
Well, first of all, if Susie, I'll trust what you said. I haven't looked at the article. I of course have heard about it, but conspiracy theorist. Sometimes I am a conspiracy theorist, but I only believe in the conspiracy theories that are true. Yeah. And by the way, Susie and I have joked in private and in public about that for a long time. For example, I believed in the crazy conspiracy theory back in 2020 that it was stupid to mask 3-year-olds at the height of the COVID pandemic, that we should actually let them develop some language skills. You know, I believed in this crazy conspiracy theory that the media and the government were covering up the fact that Joe Biden was clearly unable to do the job.
Autopen.
And I believed in the conspiracy theory that Joe Biden was trying to throw his political opponents in jail rather than win an argument against his political opponents. So, at least on some of these conspiracy theories, it turns out that a conspiracy theory is just something that was true 6 months before the media admitted it. And that's my understanding. Now, look, I do want to say something about Susie, though, because, again, having not read this article.
Now, I just want to say, he could have left it at that. He could have ended it there. Perfect response. Just, yeah, I am a conspiracy theorist. I believe in all of these conspiracies. Right back on message again. I believe in these conspiracies. Totally unfazed. He's not, like, nervous and stuttering. He's just like, yeah, just answers the question. All right, on to the next thing. But he's only halfway through his answer. He goes out of his way to continue to say what he's going to say. Now let's just zoom out for a half a second here. If we accept that, given the nature of how American politics works right now, we are going to have two options in 2028. We are going to have a continuation of the Trump agenda or a halting and reversing of the Trump agenda. Those are our options. J.D. Vance represents option number one. Everyone else represents option number two. All right, so with that groundwork established, this is what J.D. Vance is signaling. The guy who is the one hope of continuing to build upon Trump's agenda and ensuring that all of these things we've already talked about and all the things that we're going to continue to talk about are not only built upon, but added to. The guy who is going to be responsible for that, this is what he wants you to know about Susie Wiles, very unpopular, very not necessarily very unpopular, but very divisive character, very unpopular with some. Yeah, JD already said he wants to move faster. So clearly one of the most, I don't know, what do you say, like radical? One of the most closest to the best possible representation of us at the highest levels of power in the country right now. Close, deep respect and close affiliation with Stephen Miller, who's maybe the other one. This guy, he knows Susie Wiles personally, works with her regularly, has every opportunity to either say nothing or either implicitly or directly throw her under the bus here. So if she was a problem in the eyes of the guy who is going to be responsible for continuing this, if he felt that she was an obstruction to that, he could either throw her under the bus now or just say nothing. Let the answer stand as he gave it and move on. But this is what he says.
Susie is a person I've come to know very, very well. And, you know, a lot of you probably ask yourself, what is it like behind the scenes? What's going on actually behind the scenes of the Trump administration? And I'll tell you, the president is exactly in private who he is in public. Like, I'll tell you a little story. Maybe a week or so ago, I walk into the Oval Office and Marco and I are sitting there talking with the president about something. He says, stop. And he looks at our shoes and says, you guys have terrible shoes. So he goes and gets a shoe catalog. And remember, this is the Christmas season, so the president's got some holiday cheer. He goes and gets a shoe catalog and gets his favorite shoes and orders like 4 pairs of shoes for me and 4 pairs of shoes for Marco, because he's like, we need our vice president or secretary of state to look their very best. And, then we went back to talking about whatever major, international issue we were talking about. Again, he is exactly in private who he is in public. That's not true of most people in Washington, D.C. It's not. And I've seen so many people who will say one thing to the president's face, Democrats and Republicans, and then will do the exact opposite behind the scenes. You know why I really... You know what they are?
They're
and you
traitors.
know why I really love Susie Wiles? Because Susie is who she is in the president's presence. She's the same exact person when the president isn't around. I've never seen Susie Wiles say something to the president and then go and counteract him or subvert his will behind the scenes. And that's what you want in a staffer. Because as much as I love Susie, the American people didn't elect any staffer. They elected the president of the United States. And what you want...
What's the most important political virtue?
And what you want in a staffer is a person who understands they are there to effectuate the will of the American people and they're there to follow the orders of the duly elected Commander-in-Chief of the United States. And Susie Wiles, we have our disagreements. We agree on much more than we disagree, but I've never seen her be disloyal to the President of the United States, and that makes her the best White House Chief of Staff that I think the President could ask for.
The only acceptable political theory is complete undying loyalty to Donald Trump.
He could have thrown her under the bus. He could have taken this opportunity to make a power move. But you know what that would have been? That would have been disloyal to the president. Donald Trump picked her as his chief of staff. The vice president is saying, putting his own reputation on the line to say she is loyal. Yes, we disagree. She is loyal. We can disagree about whatever you want, but at the end of the day, you must be loyal. Yeah, Trump said, I will teach them how to win. He is teaching us how to win. You want other, bigger, different, better, separate wins? Those wins will come through Donald Trump. That is the only way you could possibly seek to attain those wins in the political domain. There's no second option. First comes loyalty. Second comes wins. The vice president himself had every opportunity. The man who will be tasked with carrying on the Trump agenda and adding to it. The only possible way we will ever conceivably be able to add to it. If you want to add to it, if you think that not enough has happened and you want more, that more will go through this guy. And this guy says Susie Wiles is loyal to the president. She's staying where she's at. That's all you need to hear. Unless you're some gay-ass libertarian who's like, well, I don't put my faith in men. I don't trust a politician. I'm too smart for that. I'm politically inept. You should take my advice. Fuck off. Yeah, I believe in hierarchy. Clearly you don't. And again, you can say all you want about what he has or hasn't done. I don't give a fuck. If you want more, it comes through him. He hasn't done this yet. It will come through him if it ever is to come. Well, he's done all these things I don't like. So what? It would have been, it's that and much more with some other option. There is no other option. So if he's done things you don't like as well as things you do like, well, that's a better alternative than someone who's done nothing that you like. How is this difficult to understand? It's not. It's simple. So if you choose to not understand it, that's what you're doing. You're choosing to not understand this because you're either retarded or you've got ulterior motives. Those are the options. I read you guys that article on the last Labe about DEI. And just as a reminder of how far we've come, we have an extensive article written describing how every major institution in the country was fundamentally, structurally, intentionally biased against white men. This was illegal to say publicly a couple of years ago. Now the vice president is signal boosting it. A lot of people think DEI is lame diversity seminars or racial slogans at NFL games. In reality, it was a deliberate program of discrimination primarily against white men. This is an incredible piece that describes the evil of DEI and its consequences. This is why the Trump administration has so dedicated itself to eradicating racist discrimination. We've eliminated funding for DEI, required government grantees to certify that they're not engaged in DEI. If you want a federal grant, you have to certify that you are not engaged in DEI. Does that sink in for you? We've gone from this is legally being mandated and forced down your throat to if you want federal money, you have to prove to us you are not doing this. We fired a number of DEI employees and asked the great Harmeet Dillon to aggressively prosecute all forms of racial discrimination. For too many Democrat leaders, racial discrimination was bad unless it targeted white men. This was an injustice, plain and simple. The above essay explains why. One other thing. Over the weekend, I met with some friends who work at colleges. They told me they already see the effect of our policy in hiring, trainings, and promotions. There's a lot more to do, but I'm very proud of our team on this. We haven't done enough yet. He literally said, there's a lot more to do. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. May I have another, sir? Get your ass in line. One final observation about the above essay. So much of this was generational. Older white men created a system whereby they'd be fine, but millennials and Gen Z would get screwed. Cowardice and evil are a deadly combination. And he says, this is an important point. This guy, Josh Manning, said, you're not wrong, JD, but one thing to consider is how many knew they were doing this. I suggest that it's less intentionality, except on the race hustler Bolshevik side, and more simply the spirit of Antichrist or Cain, a function of man's fallen nature always finding him. This from Josh Manning. JD says, quote tweeting something saying this is the spirit of Antichrist, said this is an important point. Created is too strong here, but many assented to its creation when they had the power to stop it or stayed silent. Credit to those who spoke up early. So the vice president is explicitly saying that DEI is the spirit of Antichrist. Patriot spotted. This is the first administration to recognize the evil of anti-white racism and to do something about it. Raw egg nationalists. Correct. And now we've got a bunch of guys who pride themselves on how base they are, how right-wing they are, how much they hate democracy, how excellent they are at noticing, and they can't recognize that right now we have the first administration to not only recognize but explicitly call out and attack, as a matter of policy, anti-white racism. They haven't noticed that this administration is pro-white. Thank you, baby gravy. And look at this. I showed you guys this before. Jobs.now, your gateway to hidden job postings big companies don't want you to see. He said, does anyone know of lawyers who are actually interested in pursuing discrimination cases against corporations? I was sharing this guy's stuff when he had like 5,000 followers. He says, we have potentially thousands of slam dunk discrimination cases, and we cannot find a law firm to work with us or our users because of the fear of loss of future work. And he gets a response directly from the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission chair, saying, please reach out to my office. I appreciate the work you are doing. The EEOC is following Jobs.now and explicitly recruiting them to bring cases to them that they can refer for prosecution or facilitate lawsuits on these. This was unthinkable. And then she posted this. Are you a white man who has experienced discrimination at work based on your race or sex? You may have a claim to recover money under federal civil rights laws. Contact the EEOC as soon as possible.
I'm Andrea Lucas, chair of the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Are you a white male who's experienced discrimination at work based on your race or sex? You may have a claim to recover money under federal civil rights laws. Contact the EEOC as soon as possible. Time limits are typically strict for filing a claim. The EEOC is the federal agency charged with enforcing federal anti-discrimination law against businesses and other private sector employers. The EEOC is committed to identifying, attacking and eliminating all forms of race and sex discrimination, including against white male applicants and employees. Check out eoc.gov to learn more and read our one-page explainer about DEI-related discrimination.
You've got the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission chair explicitly recruiting you, white man who has been discriminated against, offering you the opportunity to receive money under federal civil rights laws. Yeah, hail victory. Imagine this 5 years ago. Heinz says, the Jews want white boys suing over discrimination and remigration. With the Jews, you win. JD retweeted this. And also, Harmeet Dillon says, want to fight DEI pushed by woke schools, governments, and employers? Protect U.S. workers from cheap foreign labor? Defend faith? Keep boys out of girls' spaces. We're hiring lawyers at the Civil Rights Department. Help us enforce the law for all Americans. You, law practicer, based law practicer, you are being recruited by the federal government to protect U.S. workers from cheap foreign labor, to defend faith, keep boys out of girls' spaces, and to fight DEI. Did you even think you could vote for this in 2024? Did you ever think this was even conceivable? Less than 1 year into the term. Yeah, is there more that can be done? Of course. But to say that they've underdelivered is madness. Absolute madness. Hot off the presses, the Justice Department, speaking of the DOJ, is reversing a Clinton-era interpretation of welfare laws that allowed American taxpayer dollars to flow to ineligible and illegal aliens. Another big move thanks to President Trump and Attorney General Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi doing nothing, I heard. Huh. Well, what is this? The interpretation of federal means-tested public benefit in the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act of 1996. This office concluded in 1997 that the phrase federal means-tested public benefit, as used in the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act of 1996, could permissibly be read to include only benefits administered under mandatory but not discretionary federal spending programs. We therefore deferred to two agencies' interpretation under the Chevron framework. So recall, Chevron. This was a big deal in 2024 when Chevron was overturned. What that meant was that Congress would write laws and then pass it off to the agencies to interpret themselves, and those interpretations were enforced as if they had legal weight, as if they were sent down straight from Congress. So in this particular Reconciliation Act that was passed, they said this restriction on illegal aliens getting these benefits only applies to mandatory federal spending programs. But if it's a discretionary federal spending program, then anyone can get it. They said, having been asked to reconsider in view of Loper Bright Enterprises v. Raimondo, which was the Chevron deference case in 2024, we now conclude that the best reading of federal means-tested public benefit is its plain meaning and withdraw our earlier opinion. Federal means-tested public benefit is any federal public benefit for which the eligibility of an individual household or family eligibility unit for benefits or the amount of such benefits or both are determined on the basis of the income, resources, or financial need of the individual household or unit, regardless of the funding sources for that federal public benefit. Mike Davis says it's a big deal. Yes. So now that restriction is going to apply not just to mandatory federal spending, but also discretionary federal spending. Yet another way of preventing tax dollars from being used on illegals. Here's Deputy Secretary Jim O'Neill, the Deputy Secretary of HHS. He says, if you are a sponsor of an immigrant who uses welfare or other taxpayer-funded benefits, you are responsible for the cost. This week, I sent letters to sponsors demanding repayment. The Seahawks won on a 2-point conversion in OT. Holy shit! Yeah, see, I passed up watching the Seahawks play the Rams in the game that's basically going to determine the division and potentially the 1 seed. I passed up watching that to come do a lab with you guys. So, you're welcome. Sounds like I'll have some great highlights to read later on. Read and watch. Remember to tip your streamer, tips.kingpill.com. So we've got the Deputy Secretary of HHS now going after sponsors of immigrants to secure the costs of those benefits that they received. Covering a lot of bases here. But this is the big one. Quiet but significant. H-1B and H-4 interviews have reportedly been delayed by nearly a year. If accurate, this materially impacts hiring timelines, mobility, and workforce planning. Look at this name. Can't even fit the fucking name. He's got dots in his name.
Good morning, bastards.
Ganadamukin. Update on mass cancellations, H-1B and H-4 visa appointments in India. Many H-1B and H-4 visa applicants in India are now reporting that their January 2026 interview dates have been auto-rescheduled to November to December of 2026. They literally took their interview dates that they have to go back to India for and moved them to the end of the year. And if I'm not mistaken, what this means is that any H-1B or H-4 visa applicant up for one of these interviews now has to go back to India and wait for a year. I don't have full confirmation on that. I don't know if this is new applications or reapplications, but I know that they've set it up now where they have to do reapplications every year. And for the reapplications, they have to leave the country. And it's illegal for them to be in the country until they filed the application and had it approved. The U.S. Consulate in Hyderabad and U.S. Consulate Chennai appear to be sending these rescheduling emails on a rolling basis with new batches of applicants receiving notices each day. However, not all applicants have received these emails, and there is currently no public clarification from U.S. Embassy or U.S. Consulate explaining the criteria process behind these mass cancellations. As Douglas Mackey says, looks like the Trump administration is banning India via the back door. Bureaucratic asphyxiation. Yeah, I've got Perry Abbasi on my mind, and I see backdoor and asphyxiation in the same tweet, and oh boy. Perry loves backdoor Indians. Yeah, he loves to asphyxiate the backdoor Indians. You love to see it. Oh, see, here's where, the bureaucracy, government never works right, random messages getting sent out and stuff getting delayed, and it's really sorry for the inconvenience, I know it's really going to make all of your, planning and budgeting really difficult. That sucks. I hate to hear that. That's a real bummer, man. This is how, this is the best that an administration can do right now with a traitorous Congress. You just attack the program from every conceivable angle. Just attack it, undermine it, throw it into confusion. The confusion is a feature, not a bug. And it does, that confusion does cost some political capital. There will be a portion of the population who is affected by this, who gets really upset about it. And it's like, this is incompetent, and they have no idea what they're doing, yada, yada, yada. Who cares? Give me more. Look at this. Republican Congresswoman is now calling for a full H-1B ban and a repeal of Hart-Celler. This is Representative Beth Van Dyne. We're getting more and more of these. Starting to pick up a drumbeat. Maybe you ought to contribute to that, perhaps. Perhaps you ought to lean on Congress. Obviously, the administration is perfectly happy to massively restrict H-1Bs, if not abolish the program altogether. We're talking even further, though. We're talking about repealing Hart-Celler. Multiple members of Congress are now talking this way. Force these congressmen and women on board with this. Direct your chimping at them.
This is incompatibility. Let's talk about Somalia. Somalia, you have an inbreeding coefficient of approximately 60% of the country is in first or second cousin marriages, child brides, genital mutilation. You have Sharia law. 99.999% of the entire population is living under Sharia law. It is an entire economy built on piracy and fraud. And someone's going to have to explain to me, and I've been waiting for this, Congresswoman, someone's going to have to explain to me why that's good for our nation.
That's not good. It's not good for our nation at all. Having people come in from Afghanistan when we know that that country is absolutely broken, and having them come in here without really getting vetted. We know that we have allowed, especially in the last 5 years, not in the last year, because of Tom Home, because of Christie, because of President Trump, but the 4 years prior, we allowed 20 million people in here that we have no idea who they are. We have no idea their intent. We don't know where they came from. We don't know what their history is. And yeah, we absolutely need to start looking at our immigration system. I've always said when people ask, what are you going to do about immigration reform? Number one, let's close down our border first. Let's make sure that we have a secure border. We know who's coming over. That's been done. Now we have to actually go after the immigration system that has allowed those folks in. Then looking at what they're doing to our economy. Under the Biden administration, they were bragging about all these jobs that they were creating. The jobs that they were creating were government jobs or jobs for foreign workers. Finally, you've got an administration that gets it. That H-1B visa program has got to either stop right now until we understand the amount of just how it's being taken advantage of, or redone so that it doesn't exist. I mean, it cannot continue in the way it has, because it has absolutely hurt our American workers.
Yeah, you already have an O-1 visa. You don't need H-1B visas. They need to be shut down entirely. Would you be for repealing Hart-Celler? It's been an absolute atrocious mistake.
I think we try to overcorrect in our country, and we pass these massive laws that we don't.
She's from Texas's 24th. So she's from looks like it's north of Irving, north of Fort Worth, north of Arlington. So she's in the DFW area. It looks like kind of on the north side, just north of Fort Worth and Dallas.
Look at the unintended consequences. Yes. And I think what you need to do is, if you're going to pass a law like that, put a number on it. And when you see that hockey stick growth, recognize the fact, wait a second, this was not the intent. That's not what we wanted to happen, and block it. But we haven't. We kept making exception after exception. Even like with the H-1B visa programs, we had exceptions where there wasn't a cap. There wasn't a cap for academics. There wasn't a cap for NGOs. And we see it skyrocket. And again, what that's done is it has hurt American workers. It's hurt American wages. And it has opened up opportunities for people to come into our country that, quite honestly, don't need to be here, don't want to be here, but are going to take advantage. I think your example of what's happening in Minnesota with the Somalian population is right on, dead on.
She was the mayor of Irving from 2011 to 2017. She's been the U.S. representative for Texas's 24th since 2021. She was an official in the U.S. Department of HUD during the first Trump administration. She's originally from Albany, lived in Cooperstown. Nice, went to Cornell. She became dissatisfied with Herbert Gears, the Democratic Irving city councilor representing her, over how he handled a zoning case in her neighborhood. She ran against him in the 2004 election and won. She was elected mayor in 2005. She stepped down from the council in he was elected mayor in 2005. She stepped down from the council in 2010 and successfully ran for mayor against him in 2011. She beat the same guy twice. Let's see. In 2015, following an article by Breitbart News, I'm just reading from Wikipedia, following an article by Breitbart News that made a false allegation that a court in the DFW Metroplex followed Sharia law, Van Dyne pushed for a vote on a resolution in the Irving City Council that expressed support of a bill in the Texas legislature seeking to ban Sharia law. Also in 2015, when Ahmed Mohammed, a 14-year-old Muslim boy, was arrested for bringing a homemade clock, which teachers thought was a bomb, to school, she defended the school's and Irving Police Department's actions. She was named as a co-defendant in a defamation lawsuit initiated by Mohammed's father. She was dismissed from the suit based partially on the Texas Citizens Participation Act, a state law that, quote, prohibits the use of lawsuits to intimidate or silence citizens and public officials from exercising their right of free speech. Entire suit was eventually dismissed by the judge, who ruled the plaintiffs had failed to prove officials discriminated against him. In February of 2017, she announced that she would not seek a third term as mayor. In May of 2017, President Donald Trump appointed her as regional administrator for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, overseeing Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Louisiana, and Arkansas. Very, very interesting. See if there's any other little details in here. She was one of 147 Republican lawmakers who voted to overturn results in the 2020 presidential election by objecting to Pennsylvania's electors on January 7th, 2021. She voted against H.R. 7691, the Additional Ukraine Supplemental Appropriations Act in 2022, which would provide $40 billion in emergency aid to the Ukrainian government. I see people, I keep seeing these headlines that are like, they give more money to Ukraine! And it's like $150 million. And I'm like, $40 billion in emergency aid to the Ukrainian government 6 years ago. Now, occasionally you see something that's like, oh, there's like a couple hundred million dollars is nothing. They've basically cut off the spigot if we're into the like hundreds of millions of dollars. She sponsored H.R. 6202, the American Tech Workforce Act of 2021, introduced by Representative Jim Banks, who is also on the record about abolishing H-1B and OPT. The legislation would establish a wage floor for the high-skill H-1B visa program, thereby significantly reducing employer dependence on the program. It would also eliminate the OPT program that allows foreign graduates to stay and work in the United States. There you go. She was named part of 2024 Trump campaign's Texas leadership team in March. And, met her husband at Cornell. They have 2 children. Divorced in 2012 after being married for 17 years. She's an Episcopalian. Interesting. A man died by sewer slide using a firearm outside of her home in Irving in February of 2021. He was a former communications staffer for her 2020 House campaign. Interesting. So she's obviously, if she's been involved in H-1B stuff in the past and is also, she opposed the Affordable Care Act. She is opposed says she's opposed to ending cash bail. The Atlantic described her as the new face of Trumpism in Texas. Obviously she's been being part of HUD for that southern district of the country. She's very well aware of the problems with illegal immigration. So I'd imagine this isn't something that it doesn't seem like it's something she's just jumping on all of a sudden. She's been there for a long time. 150 million is 10 Bradleys, maybe? Yeah, right. Sewer slide, you should understand why I have to say that. Now here is a spicy meatball. This is a big one. A very, very big one. And strangely, I haven't seen any of the usual suspects talking about it. Isn't that odd? I wonder why. I wonder why they wouldn't bring this up. But before we get to the headline, we just gotta enjoy this banger right here. Look closely. Canadian tuxedo on RFK. Look at Cash. Oh, look at that right there. JD and Stephen Miller. Shout out to Johnny Maga for that one. Look at this. New York Times, breaking news. The Trump administration plans to ramp up efforts to strip some naturalized Americans of their citizenship. Internal documents obtained by the New York Times show marking an aggressive new phase in President Trump's immigration crackdown. So, we're talking denaturalizations now. Taking citizenship from naturalized citizens. Trump administration aims to strip more foreign-born Americans of citizenship. An official with U.S. citizenship, and man, I said citizenship a lot. U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services said it would prioritize those who've unlawfully obtained U.S. citizenship. The Trump administration, Star Wars name, the Trump administration plans to ramp up efforts to strip some naturalized Americans of their citizenship. The guidance issued on Tuesday to USCIS field offices asks that they, quote, supply Office of Immigration Litigation with 100 to 200 denaturalization cases per month in the 2026 fiscal year. Now, you're going to hear a lot of people who are like, oh, they needed to deport 100 million. 100 to 200 a month isn't enough. They've cucked out again. Trump betrayed us. Ah! Diarrhea everywhere. Listen to this. If the cases are successful, it would represent a massive escalation of denaturalization in the modern era. By comparison, between 2017 and this year to date, there had been just over 120 cases filed. In the last 9 years, there had been 120 cases filed. I just so happened to see, going back to 1990, the last 35 years, basically my entire life, there has been a total of about 425 cases filed. Now, USCIS is requesting 100 to 200 per month. In case you can't math, that's 1,200 to 2,400 per year. After there's been 400 over the last 35 years. Trump cucked out by doing something good he wasn't doing before. Nigga, can you do math? So true, slutty milk. Under federal law, people may be denaturalized only if they committed fraud while applying for citizenship or in a few other narrow circumstances. But the Trump administration has shown a zeal for using every tool at its disposal to target legal and illegal immigrants, leading activists to warn that such a campaign could sweep up people who had made honest mistakes on their citizenship paperwork and sow fear among law-abiding Americans. Interesting that we're getting the position of activists represented for us here by the New York Times. Those activists are really telling truth to power, you know. The guidance comes as Mr. Trump has spent much of this year closing loopholes in the immigration system and throwing up roadblocks for people seeking to enter and stay in the country. Wait a second. You're telling me we elected a guy who has spent the last year closing loopholes in the immigration system and throwing up roadblocks for people seeking to enter and stay in the country. I was reliably informed that they haven't done anything. The sweeping campaign, which has gone further than purging the country of unlawful migrants, has included blocks on asylum at the southern border, a pause on asylum applications inside the United States, and a ban on entry for travelers from predominantly African and Middle Eastern nations. Officials say their actions will make the country safer and preserve the country's values. Oh, thank you for giving us the perspective of the officials now. A targeted campaign to increase the number of American immigrants stripped of their citizenship represents an escalation of an already ambitious campaign. You mean they're escalating? They just keep escalating? Just like they said they would? Quote, it's no secret that USCIS's war on fraud includes prioritizing those who've unlawfully obtained U.S. citizenship, especially under the previous administration, said Matthew J. Tragesser, a USCIS spokesman. We will pursue denaturalization proceedings for those individuals lying or misrepresenting themselves during the naturalization process. We look forward to continuing to work with the DOJ to restore integrity to America's immigration system. Then you've got former USCIS officials complaining it risks politicizing citizenship revocation. Requiring monthly quotas that are 10 times higher than the total annual number of denaturalizations in recent years turns a serious and rare tool into a blunt instrument and fuels unnecessary fear and uncertainty for the millions of naturalized Americans. Donald Trump is using denaturalizations as a blunt instrument to fuel unnecessary fear and uncertainty for the millions of naturalized Americans, and you're blackpilling? Proponents of stricter immigration laws said it was necessary to more aggressively root out people who had been improperly granted citizenship. I don't think we're anywhere close to denaturalizing too many people, said Mark Krikorian, the head of the Center for Immigration Studies, a group that favors restrictive immigration policies. Sounds like a patriot to me. Mr. Krikorian said the country was, quote, so far from denaturalizing enough people that such an effort would not pull in people who should not be targeted. There are about 26 million naturalized Americans in the country, according to the Census Bureau. More than 800,000 new citizens were sworn in last year, most of whom were born in Mexico, India, the Philippines, the Dominican Republic, or Vietnam, USCIS statistics show. Most people stripped of their citizenship revert to being legal permanent residents. Let's see here. Anything more here? The civil division shall prioritize and maximally pursue denaturalization proceedings in all cases permitted by law and supported by the evidence, the agency wrote in June. USCIS is a key player in the process of denaturalization. The agency refers cases to the Justice Department, which must go through a federal court to strip someone of their citizenship. The process can occur either through a civil or a criminal proceeding. During a civil case, government lawyers must have, quote, unequivocal evidence, end quote, that someone obtained citizenship illegally or hid a material fact during the process. Because the government must go through a challenging court process, denaturalization cases have been rare since the 1990s. A Bloomberg Law analysis found that denaturalization cases brought by the government since then peaked in 2018. I wonder what was happening in 2018, when 90 criminal and civil cases were filed. Quote, the Supreme Court has repeatedly stated that citizenship and naturalization are too precious and fundamental to our democracy for the government to take it away on their whim. Instead of wasting resources digging through Americans' files, USCIS should do its job of processing applications, as Congress mandated, said Amanda Barron, a former senior USCIS official in the Biden administration. Instead of getting people out, they should be letting lots of people in. Thank you, Democrat.
Shut the fuck up, bitch.
Mr. Trump stepped up denaturalizations in his first term as well. In one widely publicized case, a New Jersey man born in India, Baljinder Singh, was stripped of his citizenship after the Justice Department found that he had arrived in the country without travel documents or proof of identity and that he had used a different name. The man arrived without travel documents or proof of identity and used a different name and was still granted citizenship. This year, the Justice Department has brought 13 denaturalization cases and won 8 of them. According to Chad Gilmartin, an agency spokesman, he said in a social media post earlier this year that there had been over 100 cases filed to the courts during the first Trump administration, compared with 24 during the Biden administration. In 2017, the Supreme Court ruled that the government must prove not only that someone had lied during the citizenship application process, but that the lie had an impact on the underlying citizenship claim. So you can see, like, this is a pretty lofty bar to clear. Not only do you have to prove that there was a lie, but also that that lie was material to the citizenship claim. Experts said that despite the ramp up in referrals, the process to actually denaturalize someone would likely remain quite difficult, raising questions on whether the government will actually be able to get many cases through. Still, some had concerns about what the guidance could portend. Quote, my fear would be that as we have seen in the arrest and removal context when DHS employees are given arbitrary targets, what happens is people who shouldn't be swept up get swept up, and that you're going to see that happening to people in this context as well, said Margie O'Haron, a senior fellow at the Brennan Center, a nonpartisan law and policy organization. That could incite fear and terror among naturalized citizens.
I'm going to come.
Yes, Ninja of Spades, this will only boost self-deports harder. Now, obviously, it's going to take a while, so if they're setting such a lofty goal, that means they're planning on dedicating resources to this. Which also means that there are people engaged in this who are not engaged in other things, for better or for worse. Baljinder Singh changed his name to John Smith, right? That was written by Hamed Ali Aziz. Big shocker. Okay, we gotta. When I see a great clip of Greg Bovino, I gotta share it. Here's our great spagigger.
You guys gonna pay for the shit that you do. You're a piece of shit. Rock, paper, scissors. Rock, paper, scissors. Oh, rock, paper, scissors. Oh.
Oh, come on. Don't tell me we're having an internet issue now.
You guys are fucking losers.
And that's why your Christmas is going to be a piece of shit, because you're a piece of shit. You're a piece of shit. You're a fucking loser, you asshole. Stupid bitches.
We love Chicago, ho, ho, ho. Guy's living his best life. Trump's new executive order will ban over the next 3 years more than 140,000 spouses, fiancés, and minor children of U.S. citizens and legal permanent residents. Nearly 100,000 nuclear family of U.S. citizens. Unconscionable, says David Beer. Ban targets close family members, workers, students, and legal travelers. Non-exempt visas for targeted nationalities. This is from the current year 2024 and 2026 to 2028 projection. The order will ban 1/5 of legal immigrants, 1/4 of Asian immigrants, 1/3 of African immigrants, and 2/5 of immigrants from majority Muslim countries. Just one ban. President Trump signed a new proclamation, this is from Cato, that bans nearly all legal immigration from about 40 countries, covering about 1 in 5 legal immigrants from abroad and nearly 400,000 legal immigrants over 3 years. Although it exempts some foreign workers and travelers from certain countries, this ban does not include any categorical exemption or waiver for spouses, minor children, or parents of U.S. citizens or legal permanent residents, making it far harsher than his prior bans. And remember, each of these things stacks on top of each other. So, just straight up outright banning. What were the numbers here? 1/5 of total legal immigrants are now just straight up banned. Wholesale. 25% of Asian immigrants banned. Wholesale. 33% of African immigrants banned. Wholesale. 2/5 of immigrants from majority Muslim countries banned. Wholesale. If you get through that, then you have to go through so many other things. This is in less than 1 year. While fighting everything. Sparaka says her nipples are hard. I have to. You know I love you, Spud, but I have to.
No thanks, irrelevant pervert.
The ban repudiates the immigration system Congress created. Cato is very mad. Like, here's a good clue for you. If you want to know if you're winning, find out if Cato is mad. And checking the notes here, yes, Cato is mad. The Trump administration is reimposing via executive order the national origin system that governed immigration policy from 1924 to 1965. Let me say that one more time. Donald Trump is reimposing via executive order the national origin system that governed immigration policy from 1924 to 1965. After 4 decades of rigorous debate, Congress ended that system. In the Immigration Act of 1965, it allocated the caps on immigrant visas equally between countries and prohibited discriminating against immigrant visa applicants based on their race, sex, nationality, place of birth, or place of residence. The president primarily argues that there is no way to vet immigrants from these countries. However, as I've detailed, Congress considered and rejected this argument in favor of continued discrimination, blah, blah, blah. Every immigrant from these countries has the burden of proof to demonstrate their eligibility from an immigrant visa. If they fail to meet their burden, the current law requires that they be denied. This presidential proclamation only rejects those who can demonstrate to the satisfaction of this administration's bureaucrats that they are who they say they are and that they are not a national security threat, exactly what the opponents of discrimination argued in 1965. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court made a challenge even to this extreme repudiation of a core legal principle of the immigration system much more difficult. Yes, Slutty Milk, niggers going pre-Hart Celler in your blackpilling. By executive proclamation, he is effectively repealing Hart Celler, while members of Congress are seeding this, pushing this. Of course, this can't last forever. But this is the sort of thing... They're doing everything conceivably, possibly imaginable to restrict immigration as long as Congress will not work with them. Yeah, the U.S. is going to be a lot different in just a few years. In 2018, the court upheld the first Trump administration's so-called Muslim ban, which affected immigrants from 6 countries. Remember that. 6 countries. The Muslim ban. All the screeching and howling about the Muslim ban. 6 countries. Now we're up to 40. This ban is far more extreme, but as I warned at the time, the court's decision does not indicate a limiting principle on the president's power to ban immigrants unilaterally. Despite the assertions that the ban was needed to prevent terrorist attacks, the repeal under the Biden administration of Trump's original ban resulted in no terrorist attacks. Go fuck yourself, Cato. Deport Cato. Over the next 3 years, 400,000 legal immigrants and nearly 1 million tourists, business travelers, international students, foreign workers, and other temporary visitors will face this ban. Oh. How do you blackpill, man? How I'm getting so much more than I expected I would get. Justine!
Wow, 6 million or more nuclear family members. Seems kinda high. Will never happen, but they deserve it. Let's just make sure that there are no wooden doors on the gas chambers this time. Tie up the bureaucracy like you tied up pins in his twink ears.
I say again.
No thanks, irrelevant pervert.
And also, shit, I can't find it. Here it is.
Cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks.
Yeah, take it easy, Justine. Thank you for giving me money. Appreciate you. Tip your streamer, folks. You could just go to King Pilled on Cash App or Venmo if you don't want to deal with the Streamlabs link. If you want to do the Streamlabs link, tips.kingpilled.com. Okay, so here is Mark Wayne Mullen talking about the filibuster. We're starting to see, one by one, members of Congress are starting to get into line.
Going to have to nuke the filibuster in the Senate. The argument being that if Democrats ever win back, they're going to do it anyway. So if Democrats win the House, they end the Trump agenda, essentially, for the final 2 years of his presidency. So get everything you can get done, if you're not worried about politics, in the next 9 months, nuke the filibuster, enact the agenda.
Well, the president has said that. He's talking about it all the time in nuke filibuster. Problem is we're still playing politics. It's an argument to be made. I kind of leaned on the side of, for a little bit of going, well, should we really nuke the filibuster? Because once you do that, it is nuclear. It goes nuclear. It opens the door wide open. And I was like, why would we open the door wide open for the Democrats? But I was in a meeting with leadership just recently, in fact, last week, and I brought this point up, guys. Does anybody in this room believe that the Democrats aren't going to nuke the filibuster? And if they do, what they're going to do is they're going to go after all the courts. They're going to try to pack in the courts, not with 13, not with 11, but now they're saying 23. And you're going, okay, if we know they're going to pack the courts, we know we think they're going to make Washington, D.C. a state, Puerto Rico a state, maybe Guam a state. And why wouldn't we just go ahead and do it anyways? Because we're not interested in the politics of it. We're interested in the policy of it. Why wouldn't we install good policy? The argument was then, well, but they will undo everything we did. To which I said back to him, is like, okay, how do we know they will undo everything we did? Because if it's sound policy, and they do undo everything we did and it put us in havoc, then maybe it'll backfire on them. Because if we believe they're going to do it, then why don't we just go ahead and get it done and do what the presidents want us to do to put all this policy forward?
You know what I think they need to do? I think Republicans need to nuke the filibuster, and then they need to start removing Supreme Court seats. Just start chopping them down. Let the guys retire, die off, and just don't replace them. We could do that. There's nothing that says it has to be 9. Let's take it down to 7, then take it down to 5. And just keep putting our guys in and let the rest of them retire out or die out. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, eventually the Supreme Court is just going to be Clarence Thomas. Clarence Thomas is the only Supreme Court justice that we need. Let the rest of them go on cruises or whatever. Clarence Thomas is going to be our Mecha Hitler. He will run 24/7.
And so there was a conversation that's taking place that's saying, well, maybe we don't do all the filibusters, but we just do it when it comes to appropriations. Well, that's where the policy is made through appropriations anyways. I think that's a sound policy for us to have a serious conversation about, because we only have 3 years here. And the president is laser focused on setting a foundation for the golden age to be rushing in and set it up for whoever the next vice or the next president is going to be. Is it going to be JD? Who knows? I'd say right now JD's probably the front runner. But if you set the foundation, a solid foundation for somebody to build on, because you don't have to worry about a re-election, which is the advantage that the president has, then let's go all in. And I'm in that favor where you're at right now is let's go all in. Let's get this thing done, because we're not going to get immigration policy done with bipartisan support. It's not going to happen, because the Democrats are never going to give us a win on this. You are not going to have good, sound policy when it comes to reforming the Unaffordable Health Care Act with the Democrats. They're not interested. I mean, we see what they've done. They want to do a clean 3-year extension on a failed policy that has a 90% fraud rate on it. That's horrible. 10% is horrible. This is 90% fraud rate on it. And yet they want to do a 3-year clean extension on the premium tax. And so we know they're not interested in it, so we need to do it by ourselves. And so my position on the filibuster has changed.
So Markwayne Mullin was a guy who was against eliminating the filibuster. Now he is, and eliminating the filibuster means basically that any significant legislation the Republicans wanted to get passed, they could do with a simple majority. So they wouldn't need 60 votes. So you wouldn't be getting like the government shutdowns or the Democrats just filibustering eternally and preventing them from passing stuff. This is what Trump has been saying. He's saying, eliminate the filibuster. J.D. Vance says, eliminate the filibuster. More and more members of Congress are getting on board. I'd say right now there's probably like 20 members of Congress, or 20 members of the Senate, rather, who would actually vote to end the filibuster. It's going to take a hell of a lot of pressure on the rest of them. And I'm going to say this again. If you hate the GOP, if you think they're a bunch of spineless traitors who are constantly scheming to figure out how to screw over the president, and by extension, you, because every time they screw him over, they're doing it to screw you over. Remember, they're after us. He's just standing in the way. If you believe that about the GOP, the best thing you can do is vote for them even harder. They want to throw the election? Don't let them. Vote for them even harder. That's how you stick it to him. Give him an even larger majority. Make the filibuster irrelevant. But at the very least, don't even let them hide behind the Democrats. Force their hand. That's what you do if you hate them. This is just kind of like, you know, you have like the normie, like 105 IQ guy who looks at politics and he's like, oh, well, if I like the person, I vote for them. And if I don't like the person, I don't vote for them. And it's like, okay, great. Good for you, NPC guy. Now, if you're a politics understander, you recognize the metagame being played here, which is they want to throw the election so they can continue to be beautiful losers and stand on the outside. They're not comfortable as the inner party. They want to be the outer party. Don't give them outer party status. Vote for them. Force them to be the inner party again. Then they can't just hide on we're just going to kind of run out the clock until the midterms. No, what? Now you're going to run out the clock until J.D. Vance shows up? And you have an even larger majority? And then there's no excuse whatsoever, and it's entirely clear you and only you are the ones responsible for holding the country back from its golden age? Play the metagame. If you hate Republicans, vote for them. Check this out. More for the nothing is happening, they aren't doing anything crowd. This is the, she introduces herself. I'll just play it.
Hello, I am Leslie Woods, the United States Attorney for the District of Nebraska. I am thrilled to announce that the federal grand jury for the District of Nebraska has returned multiple federal indictments against 54 individuals, alleging that they participated in schemes that ultimately benefited the designated foreign terrorist organization known as Tren de Aragua, or TDA. These indictments are a huge step forward in shutting down a financial pipeline that benefits one of the most violent terrorist organizations active within our borders today.
So Trump designates Tren de Aragua a foreign terrorist organization, and here we are a few months later, and we've got grand juries returning indictments on 54 defendants who are engaged in financial crimes to fund the globalists, essentially. We've already talked at length about the connections between Venezuela and the cartels and the offshore Eurodollar banks and the whole network of coalition of different organized crime entities and the NGOs and the immigration as an industry. They're going at it now. Did you hear anybody else telling you about this? Why are we not hearing about this? Just championed from the rooftops. We've got grand juries returning indictments to go after people who are involved in funding election theft, drug running, terrorist attacks, illegal immigration. This is the administration that's just ground into not accomplishing anything, and it's just like devolved into some sort of like I'm embarrassed that Trump. I voted for Trump. He hasn't done anything. He's totally failed the American people. Egg on his face. And here we've got grand juries indicting human traffickers.
I'm grateful to Nebraska law enforcement who teamed together across our state to relentlessly pursue these criminals and put together these charges. The scheme ultimately involves ATM jackpotting. ATM jackpotting is a signature TDA crime and very popular within their organization. The way that the crime works is essentially that a team of burglars target an American bank, they break into the ATM. Once inside the ATM, they plant a malware designed by an individual indicted here in the District of Nebraska and presently located in the country of Venezuela. And using that signature malware, they are able to cause the ATMs to generate significant cash proceeds. They take the cash away from the banks, they move them via courier around the country, with most of the cash ultimately landing in either the city of Miami or the state of Texas. From there, the funds are laundered through financial applications like Cash App and Zelle. They also move through false transactions involving shell companies and ultimately get layered through cryptocurrency exchanges before they land in the hands of TDA leaders such as Jimena Araya Navarro, who is charged here now in the District of Nebraska and was recently sanctioned by OFAC on December 3rd of this year for allegedly being a money launderer for TDA.
So, I don't know how well you guys can hear this. The audio quality isn't great, but the basically what they do is they break into the ATM. They have some kind of code or something that they implant there that allows them basically the unlimited money hack. They withdraw all of the money. Then they start moving it around the country, sending it via, they probably deposit it in other bank accounts, and they send it via Cash App and Venmo and such, and then they launder it through cryptocurrency exchanges. And then it ultimately gets to the actual operations, primarily in Miami and the state of Texas. There's a whole lot of stuff being validated here that a lot of people have speculated. Like as Tom Luongo just said recently, when they tell you we're that Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are used by terrorists and criminals to launder money, they're telling you that because they know it, because they're the ones doing it.
We are very thrilled to announce these charges and to thank our partners, which includes the Computer Crime Section at Maine Justice, as well as the Attorney General's Joint Task Force Vulcan, without whom we would not have been able to present these charges. TDA presents a significant national security threat to the state of Nebraska, and we will not stop until they do.
And they're doing this out of Nebraska. Like, you've got a Venezuelan operation located in Nebraska. I didn't even know they'd convened a grand jury on this, but they've returned indictments against 54 defendants. And so now I got to know, like, what is it? What is it? Conspiracy involving ATM jackpotting, computer fraud, wire fraud, and money laundering to fund Tren de Aragua. Laura Logan says, well, this is interesting. Are you paying attention? I'm told this is the first of many expected. You want to see people get arrested? Here's what it looks like. Tren de Aragua directly implicates the offshore banks, human trafficking, mass immigration, terror attacks, Like all these different things that everybody wants to see prosecuted and shut down. Money laundering to facilitate the riots. All these sorts of things. They're going directly at this. And getting this kind of an indictment now is going to allow them even more latitude to chase down all these other different associated networks following the money around. Scott Bessent said the thing that most surprised him about the job at the Treasury is that he spends something like 50% of his day, his average work day, on things related to national security. Here's another one. Massive scandal. Fulton County admits they violated the rules in 2020 when they certified approximately 315,000 early votes that lacked poll workers' signatures. They said, quote, "We don't dispute the allegation." The Secretary of State also found that Fulton County violated official election processes. This is from the Federalist. So 315,000 votes lacking sign-off counted in 2020. And as Interstate Juche says, the Democrats don't have a sophisticated get-out-the-vote operation. They just stuff ballots. The Democrats don't have a sophisticated ballot harvesting operation. They just stuff ballots. The Democrats don't have extremely motivated bases in off-year and midterm elections. They just stuff ballots. Remember how Trump won the popular vote last year, but somehow we lost a bunch of perfectly winnable down-ballot races that took us out of a supermajority into razor-thin margins. Odd. Now, unfortunately, Matt Walsh has started coal posting a little bit. He says if the most prominent leftist in America was shot and killed on camera during a Democrat administration, the Democrats would spend every waking moment for as long as they hold power, using it as an excuse to ruthlessly crack down on the right, throwing hundreds of us in prison, avenging the death of their fallen comrade by any means available to them. Charlie Kirk was shot and killed during a Republican administration, and nothing like that has happened. There has been no crackdown, no mass arrests, no punishment of the left. We haven't seen any left-wing radicals frog-marched in front of cameras in handcuffs and leg irons. Basically, nothing has happened. We have not gone to war with those who want to kill us and are killing us. When they get back in power, which it seems increasingly likely they will very soon, they will not extend that same courtesy to us. I guarantee it. Matt Walsh needs to be bonked with a very special kind of bonk reserved for people who are giving into their emotions and doom posting in a completely unproductive manner. So America First Insight, who I strongly recommend you guys follow, lots of very good content coming out of these guys, says 1, a lot of, if any, illegal activity handled by leftists is a state-level crime, which means it's up to local attorneys to get it dealt with, which means, yes, the local DAs in blue cities probably have to start the process, and good luck with that. And 1.5, we say, if any, because things like John Brown clubs, as awful as they are probably all generally legal. Number 2, we also just don't have as much judge support as the left does at lower levels. We already see all the terrible injunctions that some are so legally unsound, even KBJ has voted to strike them down. Unless the case is insanely ironclad, it's tough to justify bringing them to court because, 3, if we arrest them and they are let go, it will likely be way, way worse than if we don't arrest them. Number 4, anything that is an organizational takedown of leftist groups is going to take years. It took liberals around 3 years to make a half-assed case against Trump. That's it. With their entire apparatus all tilted toward building a case against him, all they managed was a half-assed case, and it still took them 3 years. The only reason J6ers were arrested is because just being in proximity of the Capitol on that day was enough to get you jailed. That, along with a DC jury, makes it way easier for the left to utilize the law like that. Hell, a DC jury let a man walk after throwing a sandwich at federal agents. A very clear case of jury nullification. Look at Texas in July. Multiple members of Antifa worked together to attack a detention center. It wasn't until late November any arrests happened, and the evidence was pretty direct. You can ask for action, but the odds of any large actions against the left in 25 and 26 is pretty slim just due to how the law works. That's right, Heinz. The Milwaukee judge that tried to sneak illegals out of her court has been found guilty of obstruction of justice. So there are things happening. But this is the nature of the system, and you ought to understand that. Matt Walsh ought to understand this is the nature of the system. You can't just say, oh, I'm just like an entertainer and like, I'm just a podcaster. I can't be bothered to know all these little intricate details of stuff. I'm just a podcaster that just bangs on the table for things. No. You're held to a much higher standard than that. You need to recognize some of these realities. You need to know that this isn't a fucking comic book. That the president can't just go, arrest all those people, and then, you just read the next sentence and all the people are arrested, and you just gloss over everything in between. It's going to take a long-ass time to organize those sorts of whole-of-government activities while the government is still completely infested with all these people. You're not going to purge all of these people in a matter of months. It's literally not possible. Who's going to do the purging? On these things, they have to do the best that they can while they're fundamentally altering everything else structurally to create some continuity of government to allow for the political circumstances to do the more radical things. We've had essentially uninterrupted regime control of every institution for decades. You're not just going to flip that around and do something like a massive, coordinated, organized takedown of organized crime that forms the basis of that regime in a matter of months. We're still getting things. It's not like they're doing nothing on that front in particular. We got a grand jury returning indictments on money laundering, violent leftist organization. Okay, let's see here. Okay, a couple things. First of all, this one's just for fun. Another Harry Sisson clone has appeared.
Donald Trump saying something about Rob Reiner has nothing to do with some random Democrat you saw on Twitter or TikTok saying whatever the hell about Charlie Kirk. The bar for president of the United States is in literal hell. I do not understand this. Oh, it's okay, this vile, awful thing Donald Trump said about Rob Reiner and his wife being murdered. It's okay because I saw some random Twitter people being mean to Charlie Kirk. Why are you comparing those two things? The president of the United States should be held to a higher standard in any of these given things than everybody else. How is that a ridiculous take? It's like I'm a radical now for believing that. That's why you're not president and I'm not president, because when these things happen...
Okay, enough of that. Our vice president, Mr. Fraser Payne, says, wow, man,
I think
great point.
Donald Trump, I think... Donald Trump, I think... Donald Trump, I think... Donald Trump, I think... Donald Trump, I think...
How does he do it? He even gets the at the end of it. Okay, so I realized at the end of the last episode that I'd put something in the title about Trump's alternative to the FBI, and then proceeded to talk for a while about this Kofafian on, how federal law enforcement is all there is no enforcement arm to actually do anything. I talked about all of that and forgot to get to the thing I actually put in the title, which is Mom's Berryman says Homeland Security investigation solves this. HSI. They're being spun up as a rival power center to FBI and ideally will eventually replace it, but these things take time. And look at this guy, Logan Murfin, Physiognomy never lies. Logan Murfin of Tulsa, Oklahoma has been charged with 10 counts after posting on social media that federal agents need to be gunned down, shot, and executed, ICE wrote on X. And you gotta appreciate them sending the Floyd with mom hair in the HSI gear to arrest the guy and pose him for a picture with season's greetings behind it. This is just like, we're gonna add as much humiliation to this as possible. Look at that. Imagine getting arrested by a Floyd with her hair up in a bun with the clip. You get posed like this. She's the one that's going to march you off. The iPhone in the back pocket. Yeah. Logan Murfin. What a fag. Yeah, I got one of those.
What a fag.
So people have talked about ICE being sort of like a paramilitary organization for Trump, and Homeland Security investigations is one that I've been seeing a lot more lately. So I forgot to mention that I even put it in the title of the last episode and just forgot about that. Okay, so here is Thomas Massie being fucking not just useless but counterproductive yet again. When Trump says Venezuela stole oil from the United States, he's talking about projects by oil companies that were nationalized by the government of Venezuela 2 decades ago. No one campaigned on using our soldiers to overthrow Venezuela to make these oil companies whole again. Trump's talking about how back under Hugo Chavez in 2007, Venezuela nationalized a bunch of heavy oil projects on the Orinoco Belt and basically kicked out or forced out American companies like ExxonMobil and ConocoPhillips without what they considered fair compensation. International courts later ruled those expropriations were illegal and awarded billions to the companies, but Venezuela never fully paid up. So now all of a sudden, our base libertarian is apparently a fan of nationalizing industries. Not America. America nationalizing industries is very, very bad and cause for great concern. But if Venezuela nationalizes their industries and expropriates a bunch of property belonging to American companies, there's nothing we can do about that. We just have to respect the law of other people. We just have to respect the law of these other shithole nations. There's nothing we can do. We can't protect our own countries. We can't protect our own assets. The U.S. federal government doesn't exist for the purpose of protecting Americans' interests. No. No, the U.S. federal government exists to facilitate the expropriation of American property. That's what Thomas Massie is telling us here. I seem to recall President Trump, when he was campaigning, explicitly saying he's going to go after the cartels. And obviously there's a lot of cartel focus around Venezuela. Venezuela is a hub of organized crime. You can say whatever you want about like drug trafficking or human trafficking. It's very, very obvious. Yeah, Kick is fucking up. I don't know what to tell you guys. I can't do anything about it. If you don't want any of the interruptions, you can go over to X. Watch it over there. Yeah, it's bad when we do it, but good when it's other countries. When it's other countries, we just have to deal with it. Nope. You can't have that property back. You just have to let yourself be robbed by other countries. And there's nothing you can do. It's bad. It's illegal. It's unconstitutional to protect American interests vis-a-vis other countries. Fuck off. Fuck all the way off. Get out of my Congress. I've loved Thomas Massie for a long time, but this arc is just... It's just beyond the pale. Yeah, Slutty Milk. Nowhere else I heard that. Every other country can have tariffs, but it's bad when we do it. I don't care what your fucking principles are if the application of them means every other country gets to screw over mine, and if I elect a government to represent my interests, you're just going to blockade every single thing he tries to do to represent my interests. Kaiser von Lohengram is a great poster here. He says, something I genuinely wouldn't mind seeing is the actual conquest of Venezuela, the extraction of their oil, and then enforcing that a section of the oil profits be put into a permanent fund dividend, much like Alaska has. How about we actually operate like an empire? How about that? This fund would then be redistributed back to American families who are married and are not felons, which is as close to a legal kickback to heritage Americans as you can get. The problem isn't that America is an empire. Empires are awesome. It's what everyone strives for. The problem is that it's an empire that doesn't actually benefit the American people, and it can, in fact, be made to do so. If Venezuela doesn't like it, they can go find another hemisphere to live in. We are the hemispheric hegemon. If you're going to make your country into a haven for organized crime and expropriating our country's assets, then your government is going to get replaced. We had a long conversation about this yesterday in the King Pill Discord, that a lot of people are making this like, there's this slogan, like every other libertarian bailiwick, it just operates in slogans. So one of these slogans is regime change. So when they say regime change with respect to Venezuela, what they want you to believe is that throwing out the government that is a hub of organized crime directed at our country right off of our borders is exactly the same as trying to install a democratic government in Iraq. They want to tell you these are the same things. This is utterly retarded equivocation. There is very little that actually is comparable in these two situations. First and foremost being that the cultural and governmental and ideological gap between us and Venezuela is vastly different than that between us and Iraq. I am fully and wholeheartedly in support of my government installing patsy regimes in every single other nation in the hemisphere. You can voluntarily be a patsy regime. Yes, you could be a satrap of the regime, of our imperial regime. You can volunteer to be a client state, and we will treat you with great fairness. We're going to set up joint ventures that make you rich. All will be well. But if you want to try stabbing us in the back, or you want to fuck with us, or you want to bring foreign non-hemispheric actors into your country and try to work deals with them behind our back, you're going to get knocked the fuck down. That's not going to fly. Yeah, that's a good thought, Slutty Milk. If regime change is bad, would American regime change to throw out our hostile regime be bad? Now we're just debating about matters of scale. Yes, it's damn it, Jeremy. Everything isn't just like Iraq and Afghanistan. Regime change for the purpose of spreading democracy on the opposite side of the globe is substantively different than regime change to install a puppet government that is in alignment with us in our hemisphere directly south of us. I wonder how many people there are who have made a career for the past several years talking about how Russia is completely within their rights to defend their borders vis-a-vis Ukraine and NATO. They're encroaching on Russia's borders, and they're threatening, and they're trying to set up this outpost right in their borders to send violence and crime and whatever into their country. And they're totally it's totally wrong. We've the Western globalist regime project has been encroaching on Russia's sovereignty. And so Russia's just defending themselves. And yet, if the United States does this with Mexico or Honduras or Venezuela or Canada or whomever else, all of a sudden it's different. It's almost like being a libertarian is just another way of being anti-American. You're a priori position is America is bad, the American government is bad, and it needs to be overthrown. You can't tell me you're an American if that is your fundamental a priori position. You've opted out of it. Now, I don't think my government should be just going in and invading some sort of like friendly or relatively neutral, non-hostile nation just for the shits and giggles of it. No, we should do what Donald Trump does. Negotiate with them. Use our negotiating leverage. We're going to work out a deal that's good for both of us, but part of the terms of that deal is going to include you're not doing some sort of special backdoor thing with other nations that are hostile to us, that we're engaged in hostilities with. No matter where they are. You're not bringing that into our hemisphere. That's not coming into our backyard. Russia has a right to defend against European aggression through Ukraine, and the United States has the right to defend against European aggression through Venezuela. I'll throw China a bone as well. Yeah, and if you don't negotiate with us, we're going to fucking kill you. Here we have the Giga Jew echoing the Astrolabe. We already knew that the Giga Jew watches. I haven't seen him in a while, so I hope he's doing well. We know the Giga Jew is a regular in the live chat. Here he is tweeting. For years, the United States operated as a reverse empire, using its military to enrich foreign nations and foreign peoples, sacrificing our wealth, security, and sovereignty for the sole benefit and advancement of those beyond our borders. All we got in return were migrants. No more. America's might will secure America's rights. I fucked that up. I'm going to read it again. America's might will secure America's rights. America's military will defend America's destiny. For Americans, first and always. No more reverse empire bullshit. We are going to be an American empire. America is on the cusp of its imperial era. The golden age is almost upon us. All right, now I have got a great Promethean action video for you guys. Why the British Empire is in full panic mode. It's not about missiles. It's about a boring document that just ended their financial control over America. NATO generals are screaming for war. MI6 is coming out of the shadows. Russia is calling them out. I'm going to play this for you guys in just a moment, but I need to go drain the main vein, so I'm going to let you guys have a little bit of leftist ass eating, and I'll be right back. Remember to tip your streamer. Tips.kingpill.com. Kingpilled on Venmo and Cash App. I'll be right back.
Your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat your ass. Your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat you. I will eat your ass. My children aren't going hungry. I'll do it. I'll drink your blood. And I'm starting to think about having to eat my neighbors. You think I like sizing up? I'm gonna haul him up back chain. Chop his ass up, size it up. I'm gonna haul him up back chain. Chop, 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 chop. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat your ass. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat you. I will eat your ass. I'll barbecue your ass flat. I will cook your ass up so fast, and I'll tell them, well, I killed a cow out back, baby. You think Christ would eat somebody? He would never do that. I will. I'm ready to hang them up, gut them and skin them and chop them up. You know what? I'm ready. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat your ass. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat you. I will eat your ass. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat your ass. wants to know. I will eat your ass first. I swear to God, if it's the last thing I do, I'm going to get my hands around your throat.
Whew. Made it back just in time. Woo-hoo-hoo. I was skedaddling. What's up, Reese Cups? I saw you followed the channel and commented just a little bit ago and forgot to shout you out. And thank you to Austin Trees for resubscribing over on Kick. That is another way that you could support the show is by subscribing on Kick. I know it sucks. I know it's gay, but any memberships over there, if you subscribe or you gift a subscription, that money will go straight into my pocket. I do not have a salary. I work for tips only. I'm like a digital busker, sitting out, tossing my hat out on the street, and I'm performing for you. If you like the performance, then please do reward it with some value in return. I show up here for a couple hours most days of the week and provide you guys with as much value as I can. Please do return it. Yeah, and Eastwood's desperate for a Power Wheels car for Christmas. So please do support your streamer if you appreciate what I'm doing here. Let us get a little bit of MAGA grandma action. No. Not like that. Not like that. Don't be a pervert. We're going to listen to Mrs. Susan Kokinda give us some white pills. Take it away, MAGA grandma.
The British Empire is panicked. NATO chiefs, British generals, even the head of MI6 coming out of the shadows, all screaming for escalation with Russia. They want you to look at the missiles. They want you to think that this is about territory or democracy. Well, it's not. They're not afraid of Russia. They're afraid of a PDF file released quietly in Washington last week, which signals the silent assassination of their entire financial model. The weapon that is terrifying London isn't a hypersonic missile. It's this. Now, it sounds boring, it looks bureaucratic, but inside these pages is the end of the City of London's mandate to loot the American economy. Don't let the name fool you. This is the economic equivalent of a declaration of war on the financier elite. It declares that from now on, people and economic growth come first, not financial parasites. And it comes right on the heels of the administration's national security strategy, which declares that sovereign nations come first, not globalist institutions. These were released within a week of each other, and these two documents reassert that American principles will now govern us, not imperial principles. I'm Susan Kokinda. This has been a battle that I've been part of since the 1970s. But I've seen how the British start wars and create narratives to keep you in the dark. It's time for all of this to come into the light, and that's what we're going to do today. But before I get to that, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel and help us extend our reach. So here's what we're going to cover today. How London's
extend their reach. Allow them to reach around the censorship, the social media banning. Help them with that. Sorry. Anyways.
panic is out in the open, and the Russians know it. What Trump's new economic strategy is, people, not bankers, first. And that phase one of that strategy is the war against the cartels. So Trump's current pressure campaign on Ukraine is forcing Europe, and in particular the British, right out in the open. So open that they're telling their people to prepare for war. Over the past week, Trump has been brutally honest with Zelensky. You're losing, you need to hold elections, and oh, by the way, you're completely corrupt. The Wall Street Journal reported that the Trump team is telling Zelensky, either you negotiate on territory or you get no security guarantees. Now, this also reflects the reality of Trump's new national security strategy that I covered last week. Trump is no longer operating under the transatlantic alliance playbook. As one dispirited European diplomat blurted out at a DC Christmas party, the Western alliance is over. The relationship will never be the same again. So the split is out in the open, and Trump is pushing a negotiated settlement which recognizes Russia's legitimate interests.
It's funny. It's like a woke, more correct thing. I read you the thing from Cato. I read you the thing from the New York Times. Here we have some EU diplomat bemoaning all of this. Like, all of our enemies fully get what's happening with the Trump administration. They totally get it. They definitely don't want other people to get it, because if other people got it, then they would give me more. And yet so many of our guys are so happy and eager. They're so locked into this muscle memory of just assuming constantly that their elected representation is trying to get one over on them. They're just like, they're like a beaten dog, just huddling in the corner, snapping at anybody that comes near them. You're never going to acquire political power that way. You're only going to push away any potential ally or friend that you might have. Nobody wants to be around that behavior long term. That's not how you accrue power. That's not how you take back your country. That's how you reveal to everyone else that your ideas suck. If you ran the country, it would be really bad, and nobody wants anything to do with you. Even just like on a lizard brain level, just a fundamental, instinctive, intuitive, animalistic level. Nobody wants to be around that sort of neurotic, perpetually whiny, bitchy, complaining energy.
But the Europeans keep egging Zelensky to continue the war, and the British are the most overt. Look at this general on Sky News. He didn't talk about peace. He warned that the United Kingdom's sons and daughters need to be ready to fight.
Perhaps the most obvious impact on all of us will be the cost of building this resilience. Sons and daughters, colleagues, veterans will all have a part to play, to build, to serve, and if necessary, to fight. And more families will know what sacrifice for our nation means.
That's the, what was that, the Air Marshal? UK's Air Marshal?
More families.
What did it say? Yeah, Chief Air Marshal. The way that it seems every time I open up the timeline, it seems as if this is the kind of rhetoric that we're getting from our government. You guys are going to have to be prepared to go fight, lay down your lives. I've died in the mountains of Iran for the 907th time since Trump was elected. And I think that there's something to this, like the foreign, like in the digital world, you get a lot of Euro bros, a lot of foreigners mixed in, intermingled with our guys from America, a lot of Canadians. And if I was a Canadian or a European, yeah, I would be dooming out hard. Their next couple of years are going to be much worse. It's going to be a lot more of a slog, and their only hope is that the Trump administration continues to be successful on their current trajectory, ironically enough. But I think a lot of our guys are picking up that stink. And they're projecting on this administration as if it was operating like this. Like we're being told we're about to all go fight and die for Israel or France or whatever. And yet, like, that's not happening in the United States. I saw people who were mad about Trump's warrior dividend because it's just going to the people who are going to go fight and die for Israel. You can't be an American and have that perspective. If you have an American passport, you are spiritually European or spiritually Canadian. If that's how you're approaching current events.
What sacrifice for our nation means.
And it's not just the military. The new head of MI6, whose grandfather, by the way.
And I love our Euro bros. I love our Roo folk and our European Americans. I love these guys. But you got to realize that we're in very, very different places right now. They have a lot of reason to be very apprehensive and depressed and demoralized. They have all those reasons. There is a path out. The path out is behind motherfucking Donald Trump. But don't let them projecting out what they're experiencing at whatever patch of dirt they happen to be on. Don't let that leak into your mind.
Was on the side of the Ukrainian Nazis, warned, we are now operating in a space between peace and war. We all continue to face the menace of an aggressive, expansionist, and revisionist Russia seeking to subjugate Ukraine and harass NATO.
Insane.
But Putin should be in no doubt our support is enduring. The pressure we apply on Ukraine's behalf will be sustained. Guess who else sees that it is the British who are keeping the war going? Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, and they're saying the quiet part out loud, as this headline shows. That they say that it's the United Kingdom which is undermining Trump's Ukraine peace efforts. And they also report that the United Kingdom has pushed the European Union to seize Russian assets, not just to fund Ukraine, but to kill any U.S.-led settlement. And they also report that it's the United States which was opposed to that. So the real strategic battle lines have not been this clear in a century. Britain is pushing war, the United States is pushing peace, and Russia is fingering the British. Now, we've established that the British are openly...
Vladimir Putin is rising to new heights every day. Now Vladimir Putin is fingering Queer Starmer.
preparing for war while Trump pushes peace. But here's where most coverage stops and where we're just getting started. The real question is, why are they so desperate? What makes the British establishment willing to risk their own sons and daughters in a shooting war with a nuclear power? It's not ideology. It's not democracy. It's not...
Vlad is fingering Queer Starmer and you're blackpilling? You might call him Vlad the Impaler.
Something much more concrete and much more vulnerable. Because when the empire starts talking openly about war, it's because they're losing economic control. Now, if you want to understand the economic war behind the shooting war, I want you to go to Promethean Action and subscribe to our free newsletter. Because we don't just show you the battlefield that most people miss. We show you how to win the war. Because what I'm about to show you next is the document that has London more terrified than they are of any Russians. It's the Financial Stability Oversight Council 2025 Annual Report. For decades, financial stability in the United States has meant one thing: save the big money center banks at all costs, bail out Wall Street, protect the derivatives markets. Meanwhile, the real economy, manufacturing, wages, household income, this is all sacrificed to keep the casino running. But the 2025 FSOC report flips this on its head. It explicitly prioritizes economic stability and security and household income stability over the financial system. Treasury Secretary Bessent drilled down on that when he addressed the Financial Stability Oversight Council on December 11. He said, the twin priorities...
The Aristofag is drilling people now, too.
...of economic growth and economic security will guide the Council's future approach to identifying priorities. Now remember that. Twin priorities of economic growth and security. Then, in his chairperson's letter of introduction, Bessent said, economic security requires the U.S. financial system to reliably provide the resources necessary to enable the real economy to support domestic production capacity, American standard of living, and our core values. And the report also announces the creation of a new household resiliency working group to give priority to people in households, not just financial entities. Now, a normal person would think that all these things are no-brainers. That's what a government should be doing. But here's the brutal truth. That hasn't been the policy of the FSOC. Its policy has been to save the financial parasites. So this report is as revolutionary as the new national security strategy. And to understand just how revolutionary this financial report is, you need to know where the FSOC came from. And here's something that should get your blood boiling. Who was deeply involved in the policy fights over the shape of the post-2008 crash world when Dodd-Frank was being shaped? Lord Peter Mandelson, in his role as EU Trade Commissioner, and Larry Summers, Obama's National Economic Council Director. Lord Mandelson, Tony Blair's right-hand man, one of the most connected figures in the City of London, and until recently, Britain's ambassador to the Trump administration before he was sacked because of his Epstein ties. And Larry Summers, who was just outed for his Epstein connections and had to resign from his position at Harvard.
Wait a second. Wait a second. You're telling me that the Epstein ties have been used have been used to throw out key operatives in the construction and maintenance of these globalist institutions and agendas. Larry Summers and Peter Mandelson both got fired or had to step down, resign, and disgrace because of releases related to Epstein? Hold on a second. I thought the Trump administration was hiding all of the Epstein stuff. They weren't letting any of it out. They were trying to cover up for the Epstein people. But here we get Epstein stuff released, and suddenly Larry Summers and Peter Mandelson have to resign in disgrace? What? They're using it as leverage against their enemies? Against our enemies? Yeah, Slutty Milk, the Labians were right again? Holy crap! If only we could just get a streaming platform that worked. Have you heard anybody talking about this great development that all of a sudden the Epstein thing is starting to get weaponized against America's enemies. Strange. I'm guessing that your favorite podcaster other than yours truly, who is very, very upset about Epstein, thinks that this is the greatest betrayal. You know, every single campaign stop, Trump said, we are going to release every single detail related to Epstein. We're going to make it public day one. That's why I voted for him. That was the only thing he campaigned on. He betrayed me again. Weird. It's almost like these guys are ignorant or bad faith or clickbaiting, rage baiting, not actually providing quality analysis or pursuing the truth or trying to have a positive impact on anything. They're just trying to, just trying to pad their wallet for engagement's sake or something.
So for all those people who have wanted to see the names in the Epstein files, here's two pretty big ones, Mandelson and Summers, key architects of Dodd-Frank, which protected the offshore British-controlled financial model. And now the FSOC, the institution they created to protect their financial power, is being retooled to grow the real economy and protect American households. Coincidence? You decide. But this new report is just part of a total reshaping of the U.S. economy along these people-first lines. Yesterday, Vice President Vance spoke in Pennsylvania about what the Trump administration is doing for American families.
I remember what it's like when you have to choose between putting food on the table or getting the prescription that you need to stay healthy. And that is not a life that Donald Trump or I want for the citizens in the greatest country in the world. We don't want a single parent or grandparent to have to look at their checking account and decide whether they're going to buy food or whether they're going to buy medicine this month. We are fighting for you every single day.
Now, in there, JD hit two critical pain points, food and healthcare. And add to that housing, and you immediately run into the bigs. Big ag, big pharma, big finance. In other words, the cartels. Cartels are a cornerstone of an imperial financialized system where real economic activity is sacrificed to feed a financial income stream that feeds the mega institutions. And the result is inflation, a hollowed out economy, and no middle class. And that's what this administration is taking head on in critical areas. Start with food. The administration has targeted the beef cartels. Peter Navarro just did a very powerful 1-minute video on X explaining how 4 massive conglomerates, many with deep foreign ties, have controlled over 80% of our beef supply. They underpay the rancher, overcharge you at the grocery store, and that's the definition of a colonial economic policy. The new directive from the administration targets this monopoly directly, treating food security as national security. The second target is Big Pharma and the insurance companies.
Remember early on in the episode, I read off a whole list of things that they've done in one of those threads from the thread from Cash Nicholson. I've gone through a number of other bullet points of things the administration is undertaking regarding immigration and elections and cartels. And I left off probably, something like 8 or 10 other tabs of other individual stories from other agencies. Some from transportation, some from housing, some from health, some from, what else was there? I can't remember off the top of my head. The Department of War, a bunch of other things that they're all undertaking. Every day, there's probably, somewhere between like 5 and 15 new initiatives that they undertake that are good, all rowing in the right direction. I can barely keep up with all of them. They haven't slowed down. There's this impression that people are like, oh, there was like this big push at first, and then it all kind of tailed off, and they got bogged down in this scandal and that scandal and the other scandal. No. The scandal exists between your ears. They never stopped. They never let up the pressure. They never got bogged down. You stopped paying attention. You spun off into a cul-de-sac somewhere, and you've just been chasing your tail around doing donuts, not paying attention. You're out of the game.
This is the crown jewel of a financialized economy. They don't produce health, they produce bills. Trump and the team led by RFK Jr. have taken on Big Pharma like no one ever has, and Trump minces no words when it comes to the insurance companies. Here's how Vance put it yesterday.
One of the things the president has said is we have the weirdest health insurance system in the world, where we tax money from all these great Americans out here, and then we give boatloads of money to the insurance companies. Why don't we give that money to the American people and let them buy insurance that works for them and their families?
Third, housing.
We also talked about this for a little while yesterday on the King Pill Discord voice chat. And I kind of have some speculations about what's happening with this, because I noted that yesterday in Trump's speech where he went through and just tallied up every single one of his wins. And there's a lot of people who were like, oh, it's pointless. There's no, even Matt Walsh was like, that was the most pointless presidential proclamation ever. I'm like, motherfucker, he has to do it because you won't. That's the point. The point of that proclamation is you motherfuckers have your heads up your asses. He doesn't get this like relentless media drumbeat championing all his wins constantly. This is what Charlie Kirk died for. He said this explicitly. That you need to be championing your president's wins. Telling people why he is on the right track, why he is inevitable, why J.D. Vance must be the next president, which depends upon all of this. He had to go do that proclamation and run through all of his wins, reiterate them again, because you guys will not do your jobs. My president deserves propagandists. And if someone has to explain to you why that is, again, your head is not in the game. You don't understand the stakes of what's happening right now. You don't get politics. You're a hobbyist. I don't care how big your audience is. You're betraying that audience by getting bogged down in this meaningless bullshit that's being thrown out specifically to distract and detract from everything the administration is accomplishing and everything they're they're setting a trajectory to accomplish. Political support and willpower matters. Once again, every single good thing that has happened to us from the political system or will happen to us in the future will be directly downstream of Donald John Trump. He is our wedge. We must all align behind him and force him through everything. And JD will be his designated successor, and he needs the same thing. There's ample stories to choose from. You can run on them constantly, or you can get diverted off into gay, meaningless slop, where you're just doing political commentary as entertainment, totally neglecting your level of influence, and then wondering why they aren't doing more. Well, because the president had to take time out of his day to go do a fucking address to detail every single thing they've been doing, to give you all of the content that you might possibly need to amplify that drumbeat over and over and over again. To prime the American people for what's coming. My speculation with regard to I noted that yesterday Trump, let me pull this down here for just a sec. Yesterday Trump reiterated this again. J.D. Vance is reiterating this. What they want to do with healthcare is take all of those subsidies that go to the insurance companies and redirect them straight into federally funded, something like federally funded HSAs. So instead of billions of dollars subsidizing the insurance companies, and then you have to beg and plead for crumbs, you just get a federal healthcare account with some thousands of dollars in it that you can then go bypass the insurance companies and pay directly to doctors. Do you realize what they're proposing here? What they're proposing here is a full-on assault on the insurance companies, which are basically just like hedge funds with an insurance practice on the side. And moving that amount of money is going to take a long time. And it's going to require a tremendous amount of political capital. Because, yeah, Zoomer Dylan, insurance companies aren't going to like this. And so what you've got to do, and what I suspect, you've got to hammer out all the details of this. There's going to be all sorts of different lobbying groups that want to say, you know, this federal HSA, a health savings account or something along those lines, is eligible to be used for this thing and not this thing. So what is it? Where are we drawing that line? Can you use it for a chiropractor? Can you use it for a gym membership? Can you use it for I don't know, like a holistic medicine provider? You know, they've got to hammer out all of those details. That's going to be a whole fight in and of itself. And then when you're talking about sums of money, flows like that have been in place, massive, multiple billion-dollar substantial flows going out monthly or quarterly or however often they go, it's like an aircraft carrier that you've got to move. You've got to redirect those without totally breaking everything. And as I'm thinking through the second and third order effects of all of this, I'm like, okay, so these insurance companies have a bunch of different cash flow sources. They get premiums, they get subsidies, they get returns on investment because they take those subsidies and those premiums and they invest them in, you know, bonds and other investments. And then there's derivatives on those investments and they earn a return on all of that stuff. And all of that goes back into their coffers. And then some of it they use to pay out on claims. Well, if suddenly they're losing these federal subsidies, then that cash flow has to be made up somewhere else. And if it isn't, then they're going to have to start liquidating some of those investments. So this might be a way to lean on them and get them to divest from this thing and invest in this thing. I don't know exactly what that would be. Maybe some combination of treasuries, of stablecoins, of Bitcoin, of gold, of maybe Fannie and Freddie. Like if they're talking about taking Fannie and Freddie out of the conservatorship and relisting them, and everyone can... They want to pile a bunch of investment into that. You're not just going to go to the insurance companies to be like, "Ha, you're screwed. You guys can all go bankrupt now." That's like you're not going to last in the Oval Office conducting yourself that way. That's not how Trump operates. He's going to make a deal. He's going to work his leverage against you as much as possible, but he's going to make a deal. So I suspect what they may be working on in the background is, number one, they've got to get Congress to actually approve this, but then they've also got to rotate a lot of that investment out into something else. So they might be saying, look, you're going to lose these direct subsidies, but instead we're going to make it very easy for you to rotate into this different asset class, whatever that might be. Maybe it's some like repackaging of student loans in some sort of a way that allows for some kind of student loan forgiveness or some combination of like loans and housing. And like, there's a lot of different ways that they could skin this cat. But both Vance and Trump are continuing to double and triple down on this, even after influential members of Congress have shot down the idea. I think they even voted on something on this already, something preliminary. And it was Republicans who shot it down. But the administration's not backing down. They're like, no, we're going to have this. I think this is going to be a pretty substantial legislative battle in 2026. Is getting the healthcare situation resolved, and they've already indicated the way they want it done. And if they're talking about it this way, this means that they've already got some sort of a plan preliminarily sketched out for it. They're probably working on this stuff in the background, while also needing to lean on Congress to get Congress to approve all of this. But what this may mean, this is high stakes negotiating here, what it may mean in the interim is the subsidies expire, everyone's healthcare, everyone's premiums spike, they all hoot and holler and howl. And they're going to have to play the PR game saying, we have a solution. This is exactly how the solution would relieve this pressure on you immediately. Congress must act. Our hands are tied beyond this point. We've done as much as we can. Our hands are tied beyond this point. Congress needs to act. And there is going to be an all-out pressure campaign to lay this at the feet of the administration and to make this like a key issue in the midterms. And I swear to God, if these fucking right-wing, base, dissident, right influencer, whatever faggots, if they don't get on board on the right side of this influence campaign, I'm going to be very angry. I don't know. I'm getting tired, boss. We need more. We need more people talking about this sort of thing and running the propaganda game on behalf of our president. Congress is the enemy. You must direct all chimping at Congress hereto forever forward. Chimp at Congress. Bludgeon these motherfuckers into compliance with the president.
FSOC report makes it clear. Household income stability is the goal, but you can't have stable households when BlackRock and foreign hedge funds are buying up entire neighborhoods to turn America into a nation of renters. And the administration has compared the big home building companies to OPEC and challenged them to start building. And finally, the most dangerous cartel of all, the narco-trafficking cartel. Now, it would take a whole broadcast in itself, but the important thing to remember is that all of Trump's actions, declaring fentanyl a weapon of mass destruction, hitting the Venezuelan drug boats, and everything else he's doing on this front, this doesn't just hit at the tragic consequences of drugs. This goes straight at the trillions of dollars of dirty money, which keeps the City of London-centered financial system afloat. See the pattern? Beef, pharma, housing, dope. These aren't just industries, legal or otherwise. They are extraction and control mechanisms of the British system. And breaking them up isn't just good economics. It's a strategic blow to the empire.
Extraction and control mechanisms. That is the nature of the British colonial system. Extract, control, extract, control, extract, control. You control so that you can extract, and by extracting, you control. That's the old model. We're moving inevitably toward a new model, and we're going through the turmoil of transitioning from one imperial model to a new imperial model. The American system. Most Americans don't even know that the American system existed. That's just how thoroughly propagandized you've been. You don't even know there is an American system as stands against the British imperial free trade system. But as more and more countries get on board with this American system, because at the end of the day, America can wield the weight of its own geographic positioning and depth of resources and depth of capital markets and everything else. At the end of the day, America can wield this if we have the political stomach for it. And the political stomach for it doesn't mean fighting Israel. Israel is a happenstance in the midst of all of the rest of this. You solve this problem, you solve the Israel problem. You make the Israel problem negligible. You make it like an annoying barnacle on your side. That's what the whole war is about. The American system versus the British imperial system, which is a colonial system based on extraction and control.
And breaking them up isn't just good economics. It's a strategic blow to the empire. So when you see the headlines about World War III, don't just look at missiles. Look at the money. When you hear British spooks preparing the population for war, understand what they're really defending. A centuries-old system of financial control that is dying. The 2025 FSOC report is a declaration. It says we're done prioritizing your casinos over our people. And it partners with the National Security Strategy, which declares that we're done sacrificing our manufacturing base to your free trade doctrine. Trump isn't just stopping a war in Ukraine. He's stopping the mechanism that creates those wars, and he's reviving the American system of builders, producers, and creators.
Yes.
The British Empire, whether you call it the City of London, Davos, or the rules-based order, cannot survive that revival. This is the economic war behind the shooting war. And it's a war the British establishment cannot afford to lose, because if they do, it's game over. This is
things like global governance or globalism or the international order or the rules-based order or the post-war consensus or all of these different terms are all just rebrandings of the British imperial system. British imperial system is a title because it was an imperial system that originated out of Britain. There are plenty of ethnicities represented within the control mechanisms of that system. The title is British. That doesn't mean it is British per se. It means historically, it came out of Britain. But now there's a whole bunch of, there's American interests, there's Jewish interests, there's Spanish interests, there's Italian interests, there's Russian interests, there's Chinese interests, there's all these different interests built into that, built into the maintenance of this order. But it's got all these other different names to disguise the fact that it is just an adaptation and continuation of the pre-existing British Empire. That empire hides in the shadows, and we pretend that either the age of empires is over, or, it's just the American empire, and America is responsible for all of this, and so American citizens need to be held responsible and punished. That's very convenient for the people who get off scot-free under that model. That's why America has been subjected to the torment and the strip mining, socially and economically, the strip mining of our country. Because we've been tagged with all of the ills that are being perpetrated by the descendants of the British Empire, hiding behind things like the international rules-based order.
This is why you need to join Promethean Action as a subscriber or a paying member. We're building a movement to understand this fight and a movement that knows how to win it. The American people are waking up. Blue-collar workers are seeing the biggest wage growth in 60 years. Steel towns left for dead are roaring back to life. And the old lies that we need foreign wars to be prosperous and that we need to offshore our jobs to be competitive are finally crumbling. And once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. So this has been your midweek update. Thanks for watching.
Please take a moment and subscribe to our free newsletter at PrometheanAction.com.
Thank you, you great MAGA grandma. Now, if we're going to talk about Promethean Action, we got to talk about Tom Luongo. Where are my Luongooners at? Let's get some Luongos in the chat. He says, this is one of the catalysts for the collapse of the EU's financial system over the near horizon. And if you don't think Trump and Bessent don't understand this, then you might be a retard. I think he doubled negative here. He meant, if you think Trump and Bessent don't understand this, then you might be a retard. Huge development. The United States has notified the European Union that it wants frozen Russian sovereign assets incorporated into a negotiated settlement of the Ukraine war. That position immediately exposes a major problem for Brussels. Europe has already functionally collateralized Russian central bank assets, not through formal seizure, but by pledging windfall profits and future proceeds from those assets to support long-term financing and loan structures for Ukraine. And now I will grant that under the heading of Europe here, you do have lots of American individual and institutional interests. Because, again, the globalist project includes lots of Americans. But what's happening within America is a takeover by Americans opting out of that, taking power from the Americans who are still invested in it. So they seize these assets and then are prosecuting this war so that they can actually pay returns above and beyond those assets. But if they don't get those assets, they can't, and they don't win the war, then they can't pay those returns. And then there's a whole bunch of investors who are going to be left holding an empty bag. Now, there's a couple of ways you can solve that problem. Number one, you could just stiff the investors, tell them to go fuck themselves, and hope that lasts. Or you can make a deal and you can make them better in some other way, make them whole in some other way. It's about, you could be all principled about it, or you can just take the path of least resistance. And sometimes the best principle is to take the path of least resistance, because that might be what's actually accomplishable where the others are not. What's up, Lord Breezy? Good to see you, man. Haven't seen you in a while. This has been publicly acknowledged in EU and G7 policy frameworks over the past year. That financing model was built on a core assumption. Either the war would continue indefinitely, or Russia would be decisively defeated. A negotiated peace breaks that assumption. Once the United States asserts that frozen Russian assets must be treated as part of a settlement framework rather than permanent war financing, several consequences follow. The EU's legal justification weakens, the collateral underpinning those loans becomes unstable, and the long-standing claim that the asset freeze is temporary becomes difficult to sustain. This is not merely a diplomatic disagreement, it is a forced accounting event, one with potential implications for Euroclear, EU financial institutions, and member state balance sheets. I'm not going to say this is a full-scale united policy of the Trump administration or the federal government, but there are definitely significant powers within and behind the Trump administration who are using this as a wedge issue, as an opportunity to break up the EU by beginning to pull away various different member states who don't want to be caught in the explosion here. And the more they pull away, the more guaranteed the explosion becomes. Lord Breezy says, just wrapped up my first semester back in college. This Anglo got all A's. Ajit could never. Well, I think that right there deserves, let's see. What does it deserve? I think it deserves, you know what? We got to go for the low-hanging fruit. Gotta reach up high. Well done, sir. 10,000 Patriot points to Lord Breezy for not being a Jeet. This context helps explain recent developments in Brussels. Over the past days and weeks, EU leadership has moved rapidly to bypass vetoes, expand emergency authorities, and escalate rhetoric, including renewed NATO statements about preparing for wider conflict. The underlying strategy appears straightforward. Treat frozen Russian assets as a de facto war chest. In practice, that step had already been taken through collateralization, even if formal seizure was avoided. President Trump is now explicitly challenging that structure. By calling this out, he undermines the financial logic that sustained the war. Asset freezes repurposed as leverage, sanctions transformed into financing tools, permanent emergency governance, and debt-backed escalation. Without those mechanisms, the EU's war financing model becomes difficult to maintain. This also explains the visible urgency in European responses. If a settlement occurs, the assets must be unwound, the loans lose their effective backing, legal exposure surfaces, and the financial burden remains in Europe, not in Russia, and not in the United States. That is not primarily a geopolitical issue, it's a financial stability issue. Ukraine was never only a battlefield. It functioned as a pressure point within a broader post-1971 Atlantic financial system that relies on sanctions, asset control, and emergency authorities to remain coherent. Sanctions, then asset control, remember, extraction, control, and then emergency authorities, or the sovereign exception. By forcing the asset question into the open, Trump has touched that pressure point, and the system's beginning to strain. Ending the war does more than stop the fighting. It forces Europe to confront how frozen sovereign assets were already used, and what happens when a war-based financing model is interrupted by peace. There you go. There's the globalist system. It's a war-based financing model. Like in its essence, a war-based financing model that is under full attack now. This is why peace has become more destabilizing to the EU than a full-scale war. They ordered their entire economies onto a war footing. So their economies are no longer functional without perpetual war. What happens when the war stops? Their economies collapse. It's that simple. If the war ends, European economies collapse. And you can start evaluating the second and third and fourth order effects after that, but it is that simple. In short, loan structures backed by frozen assets may have to be unwound, legal exposure clarified, and financial responsibility absorbed internally rather than deferred through emergency measures. What was framed as temporary leverage during wartime becomes a permanent liability in peacetime. The risk for the EU is not diplomatic embarrassment, but potential financial and institutional collapse. This is an analysis I wrote yesterday on the implications of the frozen Russian assets on Substack, redpillproject.substack.com. If you're not following Promethean Action, you probably should be. They are the OGs and have been hitting the nail on the head. The collapse of the EU financial system. This was originally a report from WAPO that the US has notified EU countries it would like to use frozen Russian assets as part of a Ukrainian crisis settlement. And what's likely going to end up happening is that those frozen Russian assets are going to be used to create collaborative joint ventures between the United States and Russia. And the EU and EU like institutions that are located within the EU are going to have the opportunity to participate in that, but in a junior or subordinated role. Shout out to Joshua Reed for an excellent breakdown here. And as Tom Luongo said, this is one of the catalysts for the collapse of the EU's financial system over the near horizon. All right, let's see. What else do I have here? Oh yeah, Rolls-Royce. Rolls-Royce is now announcing that they're looking at moving their 1.6 trillion pound jet engine project and 40,000 of Britain's top jobs to America. Who told you this was going to happen? Who said it? Who said that we were going to start seeing Europeans being drawn into the United States? European jobs, European companies being absorbed into the United States. Yeah, Rolls-Royce is now in America. Suffer, Brits. Rolls-Royce, one of the greatest American companies. Labian's right again. This is a burden that I'm willing to bear for everyone else. I am willing to bear the burden of just being right all the time. If you're not listening to the Astrolabe on a regular basis, you're behind the times. You got to tune in. Tune in regularly. Tip your streamer. Subscribe to the King Pill Discord, kingpill.com. Leave a 5-star rating and review. Subscribe to the King Pill Substack. Follow the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the YouTube channel because I'll post all these up there. Share the show with people. Follow me on Twitter @KingPilled. Send me a tip on Cash App or Venmo @KingPilled. Buymeacoffee.com/KingPilled. Hold on a second. Let me read off my entire on-chain Bitcoin address. Okay. Last couple of things here. Bennett's Phylactery says, I asked ChatGPT why English people don't count as indigenous to England. And it's not even bothering to argue anymore. Why the answer is plausibly yes in reality. So, why are English people not considered indigenous to England? They're not indigenous peoples. 1, because of civilizational discontinuity. The operative norms, mass migration, supranational law, and managerial governance are not organic products of English historical preference. Number 2, elite replacement, not popular consent. Policy is driven by transnational institutions and incentive structures insulated from English electoral correction. Listen to that. Policy is driven by transnational institutions and incentive structures insulated from English electoral correction. In other words, the English people are being subjected to an unelected authoritarian bureaucracy. Number 3, asymmetric burden. Cultural dilution, demographic transformation, and fiscal extraction fall unevenly on the historical host population. Number 4, taboo asymmetry. The same conditions would be labeled settler colonialism if applied elsewhere. The analytic refusal is political, not logical. This is from ChatGPT, not Grok. This is ChatGPT telling the truth here. The real constraint. Indigeneity status is withheld from founding civilizational cores because granting it would 1. Legitimize European ethno-sovereignty claims, 2. Fracture the post-1960 moral order, and 3. Invalidate asymmetrical migration norms. So the English people and the European people broadly are not allowed to be indigenous to their own home countries because for political reasons, not logical reasons, but political rhetorical reasons, because there are transnational or supranational bureaucracies that are insulated from actually representing them, and considering them indigenous would legitimate European ethno-sovereignty claims, fracture the post-1960 moral order, and invalidate asymmetrical migration norms. In other words, you wouldn't be able to get mass migrants imported into those countries if the host populations were recognized as indigenous. Bottom line, the English are not allowed to be indigenous, not because the conditions don't resemble domination, but because recognizing it would reverse the hierarchy the concept was built to enforce. The concept of indigenous peoples is a hierarchy that was built to enforce a greater moral claim to the land by non-whites than whites. He has the full conversation linked here that you can go through if you want. He says, here's the full conversation, very little steering, though it is clearly aware of my take on the subject. Camo Aquaticus, Patriot spotted. He said, it's a remarkably honest answer given who trained that LLM. These sorts of explanations were previously only seen from anonymous right-wing posters. Post-war liberalism relies on flowery euphemisms to hide its nature, and it's a good sign that the facade is breaking. So true, Camo Aquaticus. Why English people don't count as indigenous to England? Short answer, they do. They just get excluded by modern political definitions. Oh, there's another good answer. I don't know if that's actually that or if they edited that in. I'm starting to think that the post-1960 moral order is a root cause of all problems. So true. Mr. Reagan, he's got a pretty big YouTube following. Weirdly, no native white ethnic Europeans match the UN's own definition of indigenous people. Yeah, like indigenous people. I hear indigenous people and I automatically think brown people. Because that's intentional. Only brown people can be indigenous. White people cannot. White people exist on stolen land. It doesn't matter how long they've been there. If you are white, you do not have the right to a homeland. That is the official position of the post-1960s moral order. And then, very last thing here, we're going to do a little Michael Anton celebrating. Our great deputy, or what is he? He's like a deputy secretary for policy or something like that in the State Department. He's also a sartorialist. What is his current role? He is... oh shit, I did not know this. He was a speechwriter for Rupert Murdoch, a director of communications at Citigroup, and a managing director at BlackRock. Michael Anton was a managing director at BlackRock. That's very interesting. Lectured at Hillsdale and is still a Claremont Institute senior fellow. He contributed to Project 2025. Director of Policy Planning in the second Trump administration, a deputy assistant for strategic communications on the National Security Council during the first. Wrote speeches for Rudy Giuliani and Condi Rice. Also worked for California Governor Pete Wilson. He's of Italian and Lebanese descent. Interesting. I did not know that Michael Anton was of Italian descent. Look at my spagigger here. Let's see. Oh, this is interesting. I didn't know this. It says in August 2025, Anton was set to leave the Department of State after having written the national security strategy. So confirmation that he wrote that. Sources told Politico that Anton grew frustrated with Sergio Gore and foreign policy processes of the administration. I don't know if he has fully left, though. That's the first that I've heard about that. They just released that national security strategy paper, and even if that's all that he contributed, then hell yeah. But I hadn't heard confirmation that he had left. So Steven Pinker here says, Americans live longer, enjoy higher median wages, live in larger and more luxurious homes, and enjoy more civil liberties and greater access to justice than even the recent past. Violent crime is much lower than in decades past. The divorce rate has decreased from its highs in the early 1980s, and the abortion rate, despite recent increases, is far below its early 1980s peaks. What happens if you refuse to recognize that we are in a death spiral? Now, I'm not going to read that because I've already read too much Steven Pinker to you. But Andrew Beck here says, Michael Anton sent me the following to post in response to Pinker. I do so as a thread now and in the American Mind tomorrow. This is from a couple days ago. It's honestly amazing to be noticed, even if negatively, by someone of the eminence of Steven Pinker. I respect Pinker because, among other reasons, Steve Saylor, whom I also respects him and has explained in terms I can understand why Pinker's work is worthy of respect. Pinker and I have one major disagreement, and I assume many others, which is brought out in his tweet. I have a foreboding sense of apprehension about the future. Pinker, by contrast, wrote a whole book arguing that now is the greatest time to be alive. What I recall of it is that Pinker's case centered around a decline in violence, which I don't doubt is true in many respects, though as Saylor points out, it can be made easier or harder to argue the world is less violent than it used to be, depending on when you start the clock. Pinker is also on record enthusing about various advances of science and technology, much of which I would have to concede, especially since I am a beneficiary and consumer of so much of it. However, my case for pessimism, which is long and involved, and so I will not here restate, but see my A Tyranny Perpetual and Universal from 5 years ago, not updated alas, is fundamentally political and spiritual. So he's saying my case for pessimism is fundamentally political and spiritual. And for the record, I do think that technology, which Pinker finds to be a blessing, is accelerating both. Time will tell who is right, but I will repeat for the record that all the bad things I predicted in the Flight 93 election came true. Just not in 2017 with President Hillary Clinton, but in 2021 to 2025 under President Joe Biden. And that's leaving aside the parts that were not predictions, but mere observations of things that were already happening. Pinker's fundamental point in his tweet is that everything is fine. I wouldn't expect him to think or say anything different, but he might benefit from making more of an effort to understand why many of us think everything is not fine. A political movement that can garner more than 214 million votes in 8 years must be based on something. I don't know how familiar Pinker is with the work of David French, whom he quotes in that tweet, but I would caution a scientist of Pinker's caliber against taking anything French says at face value. French is a propagandist for the pre-Trump, and he hopes post-Trump, socio-political order. His value consists in only two things. He can pose as a conservative while constantly knifing actual conservatives in the back, and he tells his elite blue coastal leaders what they want to hear. That is, that Trump supporters are mouth-breathing racist fascists with no legitimate reasons to be dissatisfied with the pre-Trump reigning order. I don't expect to change Pinker's mind on anything, but he would be better off, as one of the last defenders of Enlightenment rationality, not taking on faith what Trump supporters' enemies say about us, but instead trying to understand us as we understand ourselves. Speaking of which, I would also caution Pinker against taking anything Laura Field says at face value. Pinker just yesterday tweeted that Field explains. That is, not argues, asserts, or alleges, but explains something that is apparently self-evidently true, namely that one of the intellectual foundations of MAGA is, quote, that the root of all evil is the West's rejecting a universal moral order based on religion. As it happens, I just finished reading Field's book in preparation to review it. I say now, with all sincere due respect to the world's greatest living cognitive scientist, the above may be a fair summary of what Laura Field believes, but it is not a fair summary of what MAGA intellectuals, of whom she counts me as one, believe. Anton continues. First of all, I am not aware that any of us believes there is one single root of all evil. It is a sign of Field's uncharity as an analyst that she consistently presents all of us as borderline idiots with no sense of nuance or complexity, who present simple monocausal explanations for everything. But we actually are aware that evil has many roots, among them inexpungible human passions, that humans must find ways to manage, and in some cases suppress, for there to be a society and the good life. Second, and this is especially important, we do not assert, quote, a universal moral order based on religion, nor do we believe the West ever had one. If there is one strong conviction we all firmly hold, it is that the twin pillars of the West are biblical faith and rational argument, i.e., Jerusalem and Athens, both of which uphold a morality that is, if not all cases identical, significantly overlapping. Hence, the West could not reject something it never had. Field was trained in political philosophy by scholars who have spent their whole careers on this theme, and so she should know this. Whether she does and suppresses it to make this attack or just doesn't, I don't know, but either would undermine her credibility. Pinker went on to write that Field, quote, could have added to this excellent exposition that in fact many secularists are in fact moral realists, believing in a universal morality, but one that is based on reason and well-being rather than dogma and scripture, end quote. Of this, I have little doubt. This is the Athens half of the above formulation and has been true for 2,500 years. What troubles me and many of my fellow MAGA intellectuals, and many of my teachers before me, is the twin collapse of these two sources of moral authority. By collapse, I do not mean refutation, for I do not believe either has been or can be refuted. I mean rather their repudiation by credentialed elites. Pinker will no doubt dispute this, but at least the claim that elites have abandoned reason-based morality. I don't doubt that in his case he is correct. But what we MAGA intellectuals see in the broader culture are elites and elite institutions that attack every known tenet of biblical and rational traditional morality, celebrate every kind of degeneracy, and preach cultural relativism out of one side of its collective mouth, while decreeing and enforcing ever-changing new rules of progressive morality out of the other. But all of this is of interest only to intellectuals. The real root of MAGA is the pervasive sense among at least a third of the country, and probably closer to half, that they have been getting screwed for decades, that this country's elites despise them and want to hurt them, and that no matter what they vote for, they will always get more immigration, more war, more trade giveaways, more wokeness, and more of whatever else the progressive elites thought up yesterday, but is today the world's #1 moral imperative. And if the flyover losers don't lie back and take it, they are Hitler. This is, to say the least, annoying to a lot of people. Kaboom. The reason I wanted to read that is because I remember that I brought up Michael Anton in a couple episodes ago, and some people didn't know who he was. I enjoy his reading style. I just enjoy his prose. And I would encourage you, if you're not familiar with him, to go look up some of his interviews, particularly like his debates that he's had with Yarvin, and just realize this is the guy that the Trump administration brought in to the State Department to write the national security strategy that I read in its entirety here, that represents a complete and comprehensive shift away from historical American foreign policy of the last several decades. All right, well, that is all I had for you guys today. That is the end of this episode of the Astrolabe. Thank you guys for tuning in, watching. Thank you for your contributions to the streamer salary. I will be back tomorrow for the Friday Labe, and then again on Saturday for the Saturlabe with the Sudawave Part 2 of the Christmas season Pseudolabe. I don't know. The Christmas season Pseudolabes. Yeah, Lord Breezy. He says I wasn't here, but that was a massive shift. Yeah. Yeah, you got a whole bunch of stuff to catch up on if you'd like to. There's been a lot going on. I'm here for hours every day, so proud to hear that you knocked out the classes, and now I can go listen to a bunch of other stuff that I've been doing. And I'll be back here tomorrow. Go join the King Pill Discord, kingpill.com. As I said earlier at the top of the show, or a little ways into the show, I'm going to start trying to do regular voice chats on Wednesday evening. I don't do a lab. I'm going to try and get some of my other work done and then make sure I'm freed up by the evening so we can jump in and do some voice chatting. So kingpill.com for that. Please do support your streamer. We were light on the tips tonight. I understand it's the Christmas season. I have budgeted for that. You guys have been very, very generous in the past, but I have to keep saying it because I don't have a salary. You guys pay me to come do this, and I'd like to keep doing it. So there's the Streamlabs link, tips.kingpill.com, Kingpilled on Cash App and Venmo, buymeacoffee.com/kingpilled, or go join the Kingpilled Discord. And I will be back for you guys tomorrow for another episode of the Astrolabe. Until then, I leave you with Hulk.
When they took a shot at my hero, and they tried to kill the next president of the United States, enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania